Chapter 1860. Jianchen, Shiyu, and Mo Yen stayed in an extremely large, quiet garden within the royal capital of the Pingtian Divine King. Inside the manor, there were a total of 100 servants, serving them respectfully and reverently. An over-god had gifted the manor to Jianchen eagerly after learning that Jianchen had no place to stay in the royal capital. He was extremely enthusiastic. Jianchen originally wanted to continue staying in the inn, but he found it difficult to turn down such great kindness, so he could only move in with Shiyu and Mo Yen. However, he did not accept the gift from the over-god. He only planned on staying here for a while. Jianchen stood in the center of a room in the manor. He took out the crystal coffin with Kea from the Bright Moon Divine Hall and placed it on the ground gently. At the same time, with a flip of his hand, an embroidered box covered in formations appeared. As he removed the formations layer by layer, a mysterious presence immediately permeated the surroundings. The eyes of the seven-colored heaven-devouring beast on the crystal coffin lit up as soon as it sensed the presence. It immediately perked up as it flapped its wings and circled around Jianchen. Its intelligent eyes were filled with anticipation. Jianchen stared at Kea in the crystal coffin and murmured, "Kea, you've slept for so long. I hope you can wake up this time and open your eyes so that you can witness the vastness of the saint's world." Jianchen slowly removed the lid of the box and saw a pitch-black lotus lying inside. It had 9 petals, and each petal was covered in strange inscriptions. They contained traces of ways, as if they were interwoven with the laws of the world. The lotus was the soul-drawing lotus that Jianchen had spent a great deal of money to purchase from the Imperial United Merchants Association. Jianchen carefully removed the soul-drawing lotus and slowly placed it in Kea's mouth. At the same time, he paid close attention to Kea's reaction. Jianchen could clearly see the black lotus slowly melt in Kea's mouth, turning into droplets of liquid that were absorbed by Kea. They all gathered towards his soul. 15 minutes later, the soul-drawing lotus vanished from Kea's mouth. All of its effects had been absorbed by Kea. Jianchen stared at Kea without blinking at all. He hoped that Kea would react. Among all the heavenly resources that could heal the soul-drawing lotus was of quite a high grade. It could be regarded as a high-grade heavenly resource. If even it could not awaken Kea, there was really nothing he could do. 15 minutes, 15 minutes, 15 minutes. Time passed silently. However, to Jianchen's worry, Kea still did not react at all. It was as if consuming the soul-drawing lotus had no effect on him at all. At this moment, in the depths of Kea's sea of consciousness that Jianchen would never be able to discover, there was a boundless space that was as vast as a universe. This space was Kea's sea of consciousness. If Jianchen could see Kea's sea of consciousness, he would definitely become stunned. Kea's cultivation was clearly only at the level of the Holy Emperor, yet her sea of consciousness was unimaginably vast. It was not an exaggeration to describe it as boundless. As a matter of fact, if news of such a tremendous sea of consciousness made its way out of the saint's world, it would cause an earth-shaking uproar even among primordial realm experts, let alone all the god kings who stood at the peak of godhood, let alone the divine king. Even peak experts who had reached the primordial realm rarely possessed a tenth of such a vast sea of consciousness. It was also at this moment that a speck of light suddenly appeared in the pitch-black space of Kea's sea of consciousness. It rapidly swelled, and in just a few seconds, it seemed to have become a miniature sun. It shone with dazzling, 7-colored light, illuminating a small region of Kea's sea of consciousness. With the appearance of the rainbow light, the entire sea of consciousness began to tremble gently. Terrifyingly powerful traces of waves radiated out from the rainbow light, radiating in all directions as if it wanted to fill up the entire sea of consciousness. However, the sea of consciousness was just too vast. The rainbow light was unable to illuminate every inch of the sea of consciousness, so the traces of ways that it gave off were naturally nowhere near enough. Still, not enough. Suddenly, in the silent space of the sea of consciousness, there was a sigh. It was very weak and powerless, and even these 3 short words could not be said coherently. At the same time, Jianqin became excited. He was filled with joy because he saw Kaya's eyelids tremble gently as if she was trying her best to open her eyes. Kaya, wake up! Jianqin called out excitedly. He hoped to wake up Kaya, who had been unconscious for over 100 years. At this moment, Kaya's lips trembled gently. She slowly spat out a few words as if she was struggling to speak. Still, not enough. The 3 words were like the hum of a mosquito. They were extremely soft, so soft that regular people would not be able to hear them even if they put their ears close to their mouths. However, who was Jianqin? He was a mighty overgod. Even though Kaya's words were soft, he still heard them clearly. Still not enough? What do you mean? Jianqin was taken aback. He was confused. Kaya fell silent once again after saying those 3 words. He was just as unconscious as before. Still not enough? Is a single soul-drawing lotus not enough to wake up Kaya? Jianqin frowned in thought, but his eyes widened soon afterwards. He found it unbelievable. How is that possible? Even in the saints' world, the soul-drawing lotus is a heavenly resource of quite a high grade. It's more than enough to heal godhood experts. Kaya is just a holy emperor. How can a single soul-drawing lotus not be enough to heal him? Jianqin rejected his own theory because it was just too absurd. However, he began to hesitate soon afterwards. He became surprised and doubtful. In the end, he made up his mind and pulled out a stalk of amethyst spiritual bamboo from his space ring despite his heartache. He dripped its sap onto Kaya's forehead. If the soul-drawing lotus isn't enough, then a drop of sap from the amethyst spiritual bamboo should be enough. The sap from the amethyst spiritual bamboo is tainted with Xianhuang qi, so it's no less valuable than the soul-drawing lotus. It might even be more valuable, Jianqin thought. The sap from the amethyst spiritual bamboo fused with Kaya's forehead. The rainbow light in the depths of Kaya's sea of consciousness immediately became slightly brighter. Traces of ways permeated the surroundings, filling the entire region. The sap from the amethyst spiritual bamboo was not useless to Kaya. It was just that an extremely large amount would be required to awaken Kaya. However, Jianqin had no idea about this. He could not help but sigh as he stared at Kaya, who still did not react. He became disappointed. However, his eyes lit up soon afterwards. He became excited and said, "It looks like the sap from the amethyst spiritual bamboo is useless to Kaya. I need to get a second soul-drawing lotus or some other heavenly resource that can heal the soul. Only then will I be able to awaken Kaya." Jianqin was not worried that there would not be enough soul-drawing lotus. If one was not enough, he could find a second, a third, or even a fourth. He was just worried that Kaya would not react at all after ingesting the soul-drawing lotus. As a result, he would not be able to identify the symptoms and save him. The 7-colored, heaven-devouring beast lay on the crystal coffin again. It was listless, as if it was extremely disappointed that Jianqin had failed to awaken Kaya. Chapter 1861. The imperial palace of the divine kingdom of Pingtian was located in the center of the royal capital. It was like the heart of the royal capital. No one was allowed to pass within a radius of 10 kilometers from the imperial palace. It was an absolute forbidden zone. There were many experts hidden there, guarding the place closely. The entrance of the imperial palace was guarded by soldiers on flaming horses, who bathed in flames all year round. It set off the dignity of the imperial palace. The soldiers of the Royal Divine Army stood in groups within the imperial palace with their chests puffed out. They stood in formation and patrolled the various places in the imperial palace. The entire imperial palace radiated with the presence of a ruler. It was supreme and inviolable. Jianqin directly made his way towards the imperial palace. As soon as he approached the forbidden zone, he immediately sensed several dozen senses of the soul condense on him at basically the same time. Jianchen knew that this was from the hidden Imperial Guards, so he did not hide his presence. He did not stop, making his way towards the Imperial Palace step by step. However, the owners of the senses of the soul seemed to recognize Jianchen as well. The senses of the soul that had gathered on Jianchen retreated as soon as they came in contact with him. They no longer appeared, allowing Jianchen to approach the Imperial Palace. Jianchen entered the Imperial Palace without any obstructions after revealing his identity. Immediately, 2 soldiers on flaming horses led the way for Jianchen. They moved through the palace with Jianchen before arriving in a garden filled with birdsong and fragrant flowers. Patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, His Majesty is waiting for you in the Imperial Gardens. We will be taking our leave first. The 2 soldiers clasped their fists towards Jianchen. They were extremely polite before backing off silently. Jianchen moved through the Imperial Gardens alone. The gardens were extremely large, and various precious flowers and herbs covered the place. They gave off an enchanting fragrance. That's an energy-gathering flower. Suddenly, Jianchen's eyes narrowed. He discovered a strange flower that bloomed like a sunflower. The existence of this flower would automatically gather the source energy of the world. If one cultivated beside this flower, their cultivation speed would increase by several times. Jianchen had learned about the Genesis gathering flower from Xiandou. It was extremely valuable with demand but no supply. Even many over-gods did not possess one. He never thought he would actually see one in the Imperial Garden of the Royal Palace. And it wasn't just one, there were more than a dozen of them. In addition to the source gathering flower, Jianchen also recognized many rare flowers on the market. Every one of them was extraordinary and had their own abilities, which made him feel a rush of excitement and covet them. If I can move this Imperial Garden to the Tianyuan family, I'm afraid it won't take too long to create a large number of masters, Jianchen thought to himself. The value of just one Imperial Garden was immeasurable. But the most infuriating thing was that such precious and exotic flowers could only be used for ornamental purposes in the Imperial Palace. The Divine King really is rich. Jianchen sighed emotionally. As he admired the flowers in high spirits, he quickly made his way to the depths of the Imperial Garden. He could vaguely sense a vague presence in that direction. As he drew closer, Jianchen saw 2 white-robed people sitting in a pavilion in the distance. One of them was an old man with a head full of white hair. His appearance was nothing special. The vague presence that Jianchen sensed came from the old man. As for the other person, he was a middle-aged man with a dignified bearing. He gave off the presence of an emperor between his brows. He did not need to deliberately put on any airs at all. His every action was filled with the presence of an emperor. When he glared, he gave off a dignified aura. Jianchen had already seen the old man before. He was the Grand Imperial Protector. However, when Jianchen saw the middle-aged man, his eyes suddenly narrowed. He could still sense a vague presence from the Grand Imperial Protector, but Jianchen was unable to see through the middle-aged man at all. As a matter of fact, if he closed his eyes, he would not be able to discover his existence at all. It was like the middle-aged man was just a ball of air. Jianchen was shocked by this result. After all, he was a late over-god right now, so his soul was extremely powerful. Even if the Grand Imperial Protector concealed his presence, he was confident that he would be able to discover something through his instincts. However, the middle-aged man clearly did not conceal his presence, yet he was unable to sense his existence at all. The Divine King is very powerful. He's much more powerful than the Grand Imperial Protector, Jianchen concluded. Jianchen, since you've come, why are you standing there like an idiot? Come, have a seat. The Grand Imperial Protector waved his hand at Jianchen and smiled. Right now, he seemed so approachable, like a benevolent old man. He did not give off the pressure of a divine king at all. Jianchen made his way over and bowed. He said, "Patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Jianchen, greets your majesty and the Grand Imperial Protector." The divine kings in different gaze landed on Jianchen. Just a single glance was enough to make Jianchen's heart clench. At that moment, he suddenly felt like all his secrets had been seen through by the divine king. Of course, this was only an illusion. He had not truly been seen through. However, even with that being the case, Jianchen became even more vigilant. Not only was the divine king more powerful than the Grand Imperial Protector, but he was much more powerful. Suddenly, the divine king smiled. Jianchen immediately felt like he was bathing in the spring breeze, as if all the gloominess in his heart had vanished. "Jianchen, I've heard of your name several decades ago. Ever since then, I've always been paying attention to you, hoping to see you in person one day. I want to see just who the over-god of the sword who caused such a great disturbance in the divine King Duanmu's dwelling is. Now I've finally met you." The divine king smiled as he stared at Jianchen with a strange light in his eyes. Afterwards, he sighed gently and said, "Hearing about you really is incomparable to meeting you in person. Who would have thought that the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, who caused such a great disturbance in the divine King Duanmu's dwelling and defeated the formation's Master Chanlong, who is on par with Yang Kai, would have cultivated for less than 1,000 years. What a surprise! What a surprise!" Spurt, the Grand Imperial Protector, spurted out his tea. He stared at the divine king in shock and became tongue-tied. "Pingtian, what did you say? Jianchen has cultivated for less than 1,000 years? You don't try to fool this old man. I can't digest such unbelievable news. If you don't believe me, you're welcome to ask Jianchen yourself," said the divine king. His gaze towards Jianchen was filled with amazement as if he was looking at a precious treasure. Chapter 1862. "It's almost been 1,000 years," Jianchen said with some difficulty. He felt extremely helpless inside. If his cultivation level was lower, it would be understandable if someone could tell how long he had been cultivating. However, he was clearly a late over-god now. Yet the divine king still managed to tell with a single glance. It was as if his cultivation age was as transparent as a piece of paper before a divine king. Fortunately, the Grand Imperial Protector failed to tell how long he had been cultivating. At the very least, Jianchen understood that not all divine king experts could tell how long he had been cultivating. This was because reaching over God in less than 1,000 years would indeed shake up the saint's world. Even the supreme prodigies of peak organizations that had spent a tremendous amount of resources to nurture would struggle to achieve such a speed of cultivation. What a prodigy! What a prodigy! This cultivation speed is probably unprecedented in the saint's world. "I never thought I would personally witness a miracle today," the Grand Imperial Protector sighed in amazement. The Grand Imperial Protector sighed in amazement. His eyes shone as he looked at Jianchen, as if he had discovered a great treasure. However, what he did not know was that Jianchen had only cultivated for around 200 years. The reason why he said it was close to 1,000 years was because he did not want to make it too shocking. However, even with that being the case, the Grand Imperial Protector and the Divine King were extremely amazed. "Jianchen, with your talent, joining the Eternal Blood Sun Empire in the southern region will be a piece of cake. If you're willing, you can even join the Tian Empire in the central region without any difficulty. You'll be able to develop even better if you go to those places. Staying in my tiny divine kingdom of Pingtian will only bury your talent," the divine king said to Jianchen. Jianchen sank into his thoughts and said, "Your Majesty is right. Once I join a peak organization, I'll be able to obtain endless heavenly resources and cultivation resources with my talent. However, everything has its pros and cons. Staying in a peak clan will nurture me, but at the same time I'll lose my freedom. I'll be bound by many rules. It'll be nowhere near as free as I am. Everyone has their own ambitions. The path I want to take is not suitable for the peak clans and organizations of the Saints world. Being a free person might be more beneficial to my cultivation, Jianchen said seriously. He had obtained the legacy of the immortals world. Whether he wanted to join a large clan or organization or not, he could not come into contact with them. Otherwise, he would be doomed. However, the Divine King and the Grand Imperial Protector nodded in agreement when they heard Jianchen's words. They said, "That's right. Although joining a large clan or organization is a good choice, you don't have to join a large clan or organization to become an expert that stands above everyone. Tempering yourself in the mortal world and being baptized by the flames of war and blood will instead make it easier to temper your mental fortitude and willpower. You can also become an expert that stands above everyone in the future and stand at the apex of this world." The Divine King stared at Jianchen deeply and said, "Jianchen, since you've chosen this path, I hope you can continue down it. Although I don't know whether you'll be able to stand at the apex of the world with your talent, reaching the primordial realm won't be a problem." Jianchen bowed towards the Divine King. He knew that the Divine King was truly thinking for him when he said that. Perhaps the Divine King truly cherished talent and sincerely hoped that he could go even further in the future. At this moment, the Divine King tossed a medallion to Jianchen and said, "Jianchen, you can enter the collection as you wish with this medallion. All the cultivation methods and battle skills I've collected over the years are in there. You can read them as you wish. According to the rules I set down in the past, only overgods who have made great contributions to the Divine Kingdom can enter the collection to choose cultivation methods and battle skills. There's also a limit to the number of battle skills you can choose. I won't restrict you at all. I just hope you can go even further in the future. Thank you, Your Majesty." Jianchen clasped his fist and accepted the medallion. The Divine King smiled, but he seemed to think of something soon afterwards. He looked at the hazy sky and sighed gently. The Divine King Duanmu was once a dazzling figure who reigned supreme in the world. His usage of the way of the sword had reached perfection. He was a rare prodigy. He was even on par with the supreme prodigies that peak sects and organizations nurtured with tremendous effort. Aside from the experts below the Divine King, there was basically no one who was his opponent at the same level of cultivation. The Divine King sighed emotionally as reminiscence filled his eyes. Jianchen had no idea why the Divine King had suddenly mentioned the Divine King Duanmu, but he did not say anything. He sat to one side and listened quietly. Many years ago, when the Divine King Duanmu was still alive, I was fortunate enough to spar with him. We were both mid-divine kings, yet I could only last 50 moves against him. Duanmu's battle prowess was truly terrifying. With Duanmu's talent, he would definitely become a supreme existence that could dominate an entire region if he matured. Unfortunately, before he could reach the primordial realm, he fell to the vicious hands of the vice leader of the heavenly demon religion, Huai-En. What a pity! What a pity! Duanmu was only one step away from becoming a primordial realm expert. With his strength, he could take on the 3 vice leaders of the heavenly demon religion all by himself without being defeated even when he had just reached the primordial realm. It's a pity that he failed to take that final step in the end. A hero has fallen just like that. Sigh. The Divine King's voice was filled with pity. He felt pity for the Divine King Duanmu's death. Jianchen said nothing. In a world where the strong preyed on the weak, something like this was extremely common. In the past, Ling Hogong fought with me everywhere, conquering the entire divine kingdom of Pingtian. On the surface, we seemed to be master and servant, but I've always seen Ling Hogong as a brother in my heart. Now that Ling Hogong has obtained Duanmu Shi's legacy, his future accomplishments will definitely be extraordinary. It's just a process of growth. The Divine King looked at Jianchen and said, "Jianchen, there's something I'd like to ask of you. If the Ling family encounters any trouble, please help them out." The Divine King's words were extremely sincere, which instead confused Jianqin. Was the Divine King really as kind as a bodhisattva? As the Divine King, it was reasonable for him to take care of Ling Hogong himself. But he was actually so concerned about Ling Hogong's clan as well. Was it because Ling Hogong had obtained the Divine King Duanmu's legacy? Was the Divine King certain that Ling Hogong would soar in the future, which was why he was so concerned about Ling Hogong? "You're exaggerating, Your Majesty. As long as you give a divine order, who would be bold enough to offend the Ling family?" Jianqin said, "The heavenly demon religion." The Divine King growled. Jianqin's face changed slightly. He stared at the Divine King in surprise. After a moment of silence, he said, "If even Your Majesty can't stop them, what can I do as a mere over-god?" The Divine King sighed gently. His face was filled with helplessness. He said, "Due to a few reasons, it's inconvenient for me to take action. As a result, I can only rely on you to stop the heavenly demon religion." Jianqin became surprised when he heard that. Even the Grand Imperial Protector looked at the Divine King in confusion after hearing that. Chapter 1863. Your Majesty, you've gone a little overboard with your joke. The heavenly demon religion is so powerful that even the peak organizations that stand at the apex of the plane fear the heavenly demon religion slightly. If the heavenly demon religion really does invade, what can I do with my strength? Let alone stop them. Jianqin smiled bitterly. The Divine King shook his head gently. The heavenly demon religion is indeed extremely powerful. It's not something our divine kingdom of Pingtian can compare to. However, Jianqin, you don't have to worry. When the 9th Army of the heavenly demon religion attacked the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons, it has already attracted the attention of the ancient empires in the southern region. Even the eternal Blood Sun Empire, the ruler of the southern region, is paying attention to the situation of the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons at all times. If the heavenly demon religion continues to push their luck, the large organizations and sects in the southern region won't be able to sit still and stop them. Your Majesty, are you saying that the empires will assist the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons? That they will fend off the heavenly demon religion together? Jianqin asked. He cared about this matter very much. He did not care about whether the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons would be destroyed or not. Instead, he cared about whether anyone would suppress the arrogance of the heavenly demon religion. This was an important piece of news to him, as it would directly affect what decision he would make when he encountered the heavenly demon religion in the future. The divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons is already on the brink of destruction. Although the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons has 3 divine kings, even if they work together, they won't be the opponent of the commander of the 9th Army of the heavenly demon religion. If nothing unexpected happens, the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons will vanish from the boundless land of the Cloud Plain before long. However, the heavenly demon religion's attack on the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons is already the limit of what the empires in the southern region can tolerate. If the heavenly demon religion dares to continue attacking the 9 Stars Empire or even our divine kingdom of Pingtian, the empires will definitely step forward to stop them. They definitely won't just watch the heavenly demon religion grow. As a result, there's no need to fear the heavenly demon religion right now, the Divine King said calmly. He was emotionless. He seemed calm and composed. Afterwards, he looked at Jianqin deeply and continued. As a result, if you come across people from the heavenly demon religion, you don't have to worry about them taking revenge at all in the short term, even if you directly kill them. If they really do come fearlessly, you'll be in deep trouble. The heavenly demon religion definitely won't dare to start a war against several ancient empires at the same time, not to mention that there's still an eternal empire in our southern region. Jianqin remained silent as he sat on the stone bench. He pondered why the Divine King had said all this to him. It seemed like the Divine King was certain that the people from the heavenly demon religion would come, and he even hoped that Jianqin could stop them or even directly kill them. With the Divine King's dignity as a Divine King, it's unlikely that he would say something so pointless for no reason. Don't tell me the people from the heavenly demon religion will really come to the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian, and they've come to deal with Ling Hogong? Jianchen thought. He was rather unsure. However, Jianchen and Ling Hogong had already hit it off. Although they had not spent a lot of time together in the Divine King, they had formed quite a deep friendship. As long as it concerned Ling Hogong and the Ling family, Jianchen would never just stand by and watch. If the people from the heavenly demon religion really did come to make trouble for the Ling family, Jianchen would have stepped forward to assist the Ling family, even if the Divine King had not warned him. That was under the premise that he did not come across a Divine King expert. Afterwards, Jianchen finally had the opportunity to tell the Divine King why he had come. He wanted to ask the Divine King about heavenly resources that could heal the soul similar to the soul-drawing lotus. He wanted to collect some more so that he could awaken Kea. The Divine King only said after a moment of thought, "From what I know, there are quite a few pills and heavenly resources that can heal the soul, but they're extremely rare if they're on the same level as the soul-drawing lotus or even surpass it. You'll probably only be able to find them in the Een Mountains of Seven's Despair." The Een Mountains of Seven's Despair? Your Majesty, may I ask where the Een Mountains of Seven's Despair are? Are there really heavenly resources that can rival the soul-drawing lotus? Jianchen's eyes lit up as he asked eagerly. The Een Mountains of Seven's Despair are located at the border between the Divine Kingdom of Qingyang and the Divine Kingdom of Datian. It's a mountain range that is enveloped by seven-colored miasma all year round. Due to the fact that the miasma is so potent that it can corrode the soul, even the Divine King is unwilling to venture in. Overgods can only wander around the outskirts. As for the Een Mountains of Seven Despair, due to the natural barrier of the seven-colored miasma, very few people set foot in this mountain range. Over the years, it has naturally produced some extraordinary natural treasures. Although many of these heavenly materials and earthly treasures are extremely poisonous, a small portion of them can be used for cultivation. The heavenly materials and earthly treasures that can heal the soul that you asked about can be found among them. At this moment, the Divine King waved his hand, and a few plants immediately flew out from the depths of the imperial garden. They landed in the Divine King's hand, and one of them just happened to be in Source gathering flower that could gather origin energy. I can tell that you're in great need of heavenly resources that can heal the soul. Here are 3 azure sky flowers. They can also heal the soul, but they're not as great as the soul-drawing lotus. I'll give them to you along with some other wondrous flowers. The Divine King passed the plants to Jianchen. Jianchen hesitated slightly before accepting them decisively. He knew that he could not turn down these things. If he accepted them, it would be equivalent to owing the Divine King a favor and proving his stance. This would only benefit the Tianyuan family. You can take a look at the collection. It might be of help to you. Moreover, as long as the cultivation methods and battle skills there don't exceed the 7th grade of the Truth Tier, I'll allow you to make copy of 30% of them. You can take them out with you, so that the people in your clan can practice them, the Divine King said to Jianchen in the end. Only the Grand Imperial Protector, who understood the Divine King extremely well, knew that the Divine King truly cared about Jianchen to the extreme. If it were any other overgod, they would have had to make a certain amount of contributions to exchange for a portion of everything he gave away. However, Jianchen had basically done nothing, yet he had received so many benefits for no reason. After bidding farewell to the Divine King, Jianchen immediately thought of the ancestor of the Mo family, who had taken away his god artifact and the Een Mountains of Seven's Despair between the Divine Kingdom of Qingyang and the Divine Kingdom of Datian. Right now, he was tempted to go to the Divine Kingdom of Qingyang immediately and take back the god artifact from the ancestor of the Mo family before going to the Een Mountains of Seven's Despair to search for heavenly resources. However, after some careful consideration, Jianchen still decided to go to the collection first. He had obtained the Divine King's permission. He could read all the books in the collection, regardless of grade. Moreover, he could make 3 copies of the cultivation methods and battle skills that did not exceed the 7th grade of the truth tier and pass them on to the people in the Tianyuan family. Although the books in the collection might not be useful to him, the fact that he could make 3 copies of cultivation methods and battle skills below the 7th grade of the truth tier was extremely tempting to Jianchen. As a matter of fact, he felt excited as if he could see the day when the Tianyuan family spread their wings and soared into the sky. 6th grade truth tier cultivation methods could directly allow him to reach over God. 6th grade truth tier battle skills were also useful to over-gods. Although the Tianyuan family had a few over-god cultivation methods and battle skills that he had left behind, no clan would complain about having too many of them. Chapter 1864. The library was located at the back of the divine kingdom of Pingtian's imperial palace. It was a shining tower that seemed to be forged from gold. The tower had a total of 9 floors, and it was enveloped by a barrier that was so powerful that even Jianchen felt shocked. There were not many guards purposefully stationed around the library. Occasionally, there would only be squads of soldiers on blazing horses patrolling the area from afar. This was because the powerful barrier around the library had been personally cast down by a divine king, let alone over-gods. Even the weaker divine kings would need to strike out several times before they could get through it. It was exactly because of this that there was no need to place guards in a place like the library. Jianchen used the medallion the divine king had given him to open the barrier, allowing him to enter the library without any obstructions. There were many cultivation methods and battle skills in the book collection pavilion. All the cultivation methods and battle skills were categorized and stored on the 1st to 9th floors of the book collection pavilion. The cultivation methods and battle skills on the 1st floor of the book collection pavilion were naturally 1st grade truth rank. At a glance, there were all sorts of items that contained the cultivation methods and battle skills. Not only were there scrolls and books, but there were also many that had been engraved on stone tablets. Jianchen even saw a huge tortoise shell that had been there for a very long time. There were complicated and profound diagrams on it that seemed to contain traces of the ways. This was also a cultivation method. However, it was not recorded through words. Instead, it was displayed through diagrams. It could only be understood and not explained. The entrance to every floor was also blocked by a powerful barrier. Jianchen used the medallion the divine king had given him to open a path and directly made his way to the 6th floor. The higher he went, the fewer cultivation methods and battle skills he saw. The 1st floor had more than 10,000 kinds of cultivation methods, battle skills, and cultivation insights left behind by predecessors, but there were only about 100 kinds of cultivation methods and battle skills. Jianchen was in no hurry to make his way to the 7th floor. He stopped on the 6th floor and carefully flipped through every single cultivation method, battle skill, and cultivation method. Even if he possessed better cultivation methods and did not need these cultivation methods at all, even if these battle skills were useless to him, he would still stop and comprehend them. He would absorb their essence in hopes that it would assist him on his path of cultivation in the future. Just like how one could absorb the strengths of others to make up for one's weaknesses, Jianchen had yet to find anything useful from these cultivation methods and battle skills, but what he was doing right now was equivalent to that. A day later, Jianchen read through all the cultivation methods, battle skills, and cultivation methods on the 6th floor. After thinking about it seriously, he chose 3 cultivation methods and copied them. He planned on leaving them with the Tianyuan family. After doing all that, Jianchen made his way to the 7th floor without any reluctance. The cultivation methods and battle skills on this floor were all at the 7th grade of the truth tier. Just like the items on the 6th floor, they were all useful to over-gods. However, there were fewer of them. There were only around 80 types. This time, Jianchen stayed on the 7th floor for 2 whole days before making his way to the 8th floor. There were even fewer items on the 8th floor. There were only 5 cultivation methods for battle skills and 4 cultivation methods, left behind by predecessors. Although there were very few items, Jianshan's eyes lit up. Even his breathing became rather ragged. This was because the cultivation methods and battle skills on the 8th floor had all reached the level of the Divine King. The 8th grade cultivation methods could directly allow one to cultivate to the level of the Divine King. Under normal circumstances, only the Divine King could grasp and use 8th grade battle skills. It was almost impossible for overgods to grasp them. To Jianshan's surprise, he discovered the divine finger of the void-crushing meteor that Yang Kai had used during his battle against the 4 battle skills. The divine void-crushing meteor finger was the weakest of the 4 8th grade truth tier battle skills, but it was also the easiest for overgods to grasp. Any single one of the cultivation methods and battle skills on the 8th floor was enough to lead to a bloodbath outside. Countless people would fight over them, and even overgods might die. As expected of the Divine King, he actually has more than 1 8th grade truth tier, cultivation method, and battle skill. These things are in many divine kingdoms. They're basically priceless treasures. Jianshan sighed from the bottom of his heart. It truly surprised him. Afterwards, Jianshan began to focus on the battle skills and cultivation methods. In particular, Jianshan benefited greatly from the cultivation experiences left behind by the predecessors. These cultivation experiences were the crystallization of a divine king's lifetime of cultivation and the accumulation of countless years of accumulation. They contained the comprehension of these divine kings. Although he did not have the comprehensions left behind by the god kings who had comprehended the laws of the sword, observing the comprehensions of different god kings was equivalent to experiencing the lives of different god kings. He wandered through different ways, which gave him a completely new feeling. It was as if a new door had been opened in his heart. This time, Jianshan remained on the 8th floor for a total of 7 days. When he placed down the last scroll after 7 days, a sliver of understanding appeared in his eyes. Although Tsang Du did not comprehend these battle skills in depth during his time in the treasury vault, the benefits he had gained far exceeded what he had gained from mastering an 8th grade truth ranked battle skill. He had browsed through so many cultivation methods and witnessed so many truth ranked battle skills, making him even more aware of the principle that all roads lead to Rome. I can basically create 6th grade truth tier cultivation methods and battle skills now. It'll just take quite a lot of effort. Jianshan's eyes were extraordinarily bright, like 2 gems in the darkness. This was what he had obtained from the treasury. Although he had come across many cultivation methods in the past, there were pitifully few of them, let alone the fact that their grades were limited. Naturally, they would not be of much help to him. However, it was different now. With the tremendous amount of cultivation methods and battle skills in the treasury before him, Jianshan had read through the books and absorbed their essence. By using the laws of others to compare with his own, he had comprehended many things. Unknowingly, his comprehension of his own laws had increased slightly as well. Of course, this was all thanks to Jianshan's great comprehension ability. If his comprehension ability was insufficient, he would not be able to benefit at all no matter how good the conditions were. I've taken another small step forward at the partial achievement of Sword Spirit. I really look forward to the day when I reach the major achievement of Sword Spirit. Once I reach the major achievement of Sword Spirit, not only will I be able to condense a 3rd strand of profound sword chi, but I'll also be able to directly break through the shackles of Overgod and reach the realm of Divine King. Jianshan was satisfied. He had benefited far more than he had expected from his trip to the treasury this time. Afterwards, Jianshan left the 8th floor. He used his medallion to open the barrier and made his way to the final floor, the 9th floor. At the same time, suddenly, a terrifyingly powerful presence appeared in the sword-seeking province of the divine kingdom of Pingtian. It enveloped the entire provincial city in a single instance. Black clouds suddenly churned in the horizon as a demonic aura surged. At that moment, even the sun in the sky lost its former brilliance. 3 human figures appeared at the front of the churning black cloud. Their bodies emitted a monstrous aura as they rushed over from the distance with lightning speed. In front of the shocked and horrified gazes of countless people, they directly barged into Sword-Seeking City in a barbaric and overbearing manner. Chapter 1865. The sudden change caused everyone in Sword-Seeking County to fall into a state of panic. At this moment, all the people in the province raised their heads. All of their gazes gathered on the 3 figures in the sky. Their eyes were filled with deep fear and shock. Overgods. They're overgods. Heavens, the 3 people in the sky are all overgods. What a powerful demonic aura. These people have come with ill intentions. The Sword-Seeking province is probably in trouble. Quick, everyone leave the Sword-Seeking province. It's the Heavenly Demon Religion. They're from the Heavenly Demon Religion. When the 9th Army of the Heavenly Demon Religion attacked the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons, the ground became scarlet red wherever they passed by. Blood even gathered into rivers. No one can survive before the Heavenly Demon Religion. Everyone run. At that moment, the Sword-Seeking province fell into panic. The news of the Heavenly Demon Religion attacking the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons had already spread far and wide. Even many people who had never heard of the Heavenly Demon Religion in the past were familiar with this powerful demonic religion. As a result, many people recognized the 3 overgods as soon as they arrived. This was because the black clouds formed from demonic aura were basically a symbol of the Heavenly Demon Religion. At that moment, the people who had stayed in the Sword-Seeking province all rushed towards the city gates as quickly as they could in a panic. They wanted to leave this place. High up in the sky, 3 figures stood on a black cloud as if they were riding the clouds. Their gazes were cold as if they were high and mighty kings looking down on the people below. The 3 of them were the overgods that the commander of the 9th Army of the Heavenly Demon Religion, Yan Wuming, had sent. One of them was a commander of the 9th Army. His name was Lu Shan, and he was a mid-overgod. The other 2 were Lu Shan's lieutenants. They were both overgods, but they were weaker than Lu Shan. They were early overgods. Lu Shan smiled coldly as he watched the cultivators flee in a hurry. A bloodthirsty light appeared in his eyes. With a wave of his hand, a large net woven from black silk suddenly appeared, enveloping the entire Swordsman-Seeking province below. During this process, the black net expanded at an unbelievable rate. In just a short instance, it was so huge that no one could see the end of it. When it fell from the sky, it actually enveloped the entire Sword-Seeking province that was as large as a kingdom in a lower world. Arg, arg, arg. A series of chilling cries rang out. A few people who were about to flee the province came in contact with the black net, and black demonic flames immediately erupted on them. They could not be extinguished. The demonic flame was extremely powerful. Under the burning of the demonic flame, those below the divine realm were burned into ashes in less than 2 breaths under the watchful eyes of the crowd. Even deities were unable to last for very long under the demonic flames. They were reduced to ashes as well. There was even a god who came in contact with the black net, and black demonic flames also erupted on him. He cried out in pain as he was enveloped by the demonic flames. It was a horrible sight. Countless people all stopped. They stared at the black net that enveloped the entire provincial city with pale faces. Their faces became extremely ugly, and they were even filled with despair. Heavenly Demon Religion. This is the territory of the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Aren't you afraid of angering His Majesty, the Divine King, with your actions? Aren't you afraid of His Majesty killing you? At this moment, a furious bellow rang out from the Ling family. The protective formations of the Ling family had already been activated. Light flickered as swords danced in the air, revolving around the Ling family. This was an overgod level formation. It had been cast down personally by Ling Hogong, and it was both offensive and defensive. The patriarch of the Ling family, Ling Majian, and all the elders of the Ling family hovered in the air. They stood under the protection of the formation as they stared at Lu Shan and the other two overgods furiously. Ha ha ha! Lu Shan laughed aloud when he heard Ling Majin's threat. He said, "You're just the divine king of Pingtian. Are you really bold enough to oppose our heavenly demon religion?" Lu Shan looked at Ling Majin and sneered. "You should be the patriarch of the Ling family, right? Patriarch, you're not an idiot. Do you think your divine king will be bold enough to say that he has no children after our heavenly demon religion destroys your measly, sword-seeking province?" Lu Shan spoke arrogantly. He was completely fearless. He did not take the divine king of Pingtian seriously at all. Ling Majin's face became extremely ugly. He had some understanding of the heavenly demon religion's strength. Any single one of the 9 armies under their command could easily destroy the divine kingdom of Pingtian. If the divine kingdom of Pingtian opposed them, only death would await them. Moreover, the heavenly demon religion also possessed a few divine king realm protectors and 3 even more terrifying vice leaders aside from the 9 armies. They were not something the divine kingdom of Pingtian could fend off. "I have a mission to complete, so I have no interest in wasting time with ants like you. Patriarch Ling, I don't care what you do, but get Ling Hogong to piss off immediately. Otherwise, not only will your Ling family be destroyed, but even the tens of millions of people in the provincial city will vanish with you," Lu Shan said coldly. His voice rang through the entire provincial city. Don't kill me. I'm innocent. I have nothing to do with the Ling family. Patriarch Ling, please save us. Patriarch Ling, you hold the lives of everyone in the provincial city in your hands. You can't just watch us die. Patriarch Ling, please get Senior Ling to come back quickly. As long as he comes back, the tens of millions of people in the provincial city won't have to die. The sword-seeking province was in complete chaos. The people who remained in the provincial city had no hope of escaping, so they all arrived in the surroundings of the Ling family. They pleaded for mercy as their eyes were filled with hope. Everyone in the Ling family fell into silence. "Patriarch, what should we do?" An elder of the Ling family asked Ling Majin with an ugly expression. Although the other elders did not say anything, they all turned their gazes to Ling Majin. "Patriarch, you better think of a way to get the ancestor back. We can't just watch so many people in the provincial city die unjustly. No, we can't contact the ancestor, and we can't let the ancestor know about this. Isn't there still the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan? He can even defeat Yang Kai, so he can definitely save us. Patriarch, didn't the patriarch leave behind a communication item for you when he left? You better send a message to the patriarch. We can't contact the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. After all, he's from the heavenly demon religion. We can't harm the patriarch." Faced with the threat of death, a few elders of the Ling family lost their composure. They all gathered around Ling Majin and argued. Some of them were afraid of death, so they tried everything they could to survive. At the same time, there were people who did not fear death. Determination filled their eyes. Ling Majin shut his eyes in agony. At the moment, he was faced with a difficult choice. Deep down, he was also struggling intensely. The ancestor has already vanished for many years. I don't know where he is. If you want to deal with someone, just deal with our Ling family. Can you spare the innocent people in the provincial city? Ling Majin said painfully, "P.S. I've received a notice today. From the 20th of July to the 5th of August, the VIP chapters will be free for a limited time. You can read the original version. Listen to Xiaoyao's Weibo, and you will know the original version's address. Weibo search Xinxing Xiaoyao 110, which is the full pinyin of Xinxing Xiaoyao pseudonym, as well as a number for the police. Chapter 1866. You want to exchange the lives of the people of your Ling family for the lives of the tens of millions of people in the city? Haha, don't even think about it." Commander Lu Shan laughed viciously as he stood on the black cloud. His cold eyes were filled with bloodlust. He extended a finger, and several dozen black threads immediately extended out from the black net that enveloped the entire city. They wrapped around the several dozen cultivators in the city. Ling Ma Jian, old man, will say it again. If you want to save the lives of the tens of millions of people in the city, get Ling Hogong to piss out immediately. Old man doesn't have that much time to waste on you. Every day that we waste, old man will kill a group of people until Ling Hogong appears, Lu Shan said coldly. Lu Shan said in a cold voice. He clenched his hand, and the dozens of black threads immediately tightened. The threads were like sharp blades, cutting the bodies of the people tied inside into pieces. The several dozen cultivators all cried out as their bodies were cut to pieces. Blood dyed the streets red. Even their souls failed to escape. They were pierced by the black threads and died out. The people of the Ling family watched this silently. Their hearts were all very heavy. The Ling family was a mighty clan with overgods. With the entire divine kingdom of Pingtian in perspective, they were an existence that stood at the very apex. However, they were so puny before the three overgods of the heavenly demon religion. They could not fight back at all. They could only be meat on the chopping block. Everything that had happened today had a very great impact on the people of the Ling family. However, there was nothing they could do. The heavenly demon religion was just too powerful. You actually don't feel pained? That makes sense. The people old man has killed have nothing to do with your Ling family. No matter how many people the old man kills, your Ling family won't feel pained at all. If that's the case, Lu Shan looked at the people of the Ling family hiding in the formation and smiled coldly. A black sword appeared in his hand, and he directly swung it at the formation around the Ling family. This sword was filled with demonic qi, and it stirred up the thick demonic clouds in the sky. The demonic clouds seemed to have become one with the sword. As Lu Shan slashed down, the clouds began to vibrate violently. A black sword formed from the demonic clouds, pierced through the clouds, and danced with the sword. It brought with it the power to destroy the heavens and earth as it slashed down on the protective barrier of the Ling clan. Boom! This was a powerful strike from a mid-overgod. It was so powerful that it exceeded the imaginations of everyone in the sword-seeking province. The protective formation around the Ling family suddenly shattered from the deafening sound. Under the devastating ripples of energy, all the structures in the Ling family collapsed, reduced to ruins. Countless people vomited blood as their faces paled. Some of the weaker servants directly lost their lives from the powerful ripples of energy. The old man will kill the people of your Ling family. He'll kill them once a day until Ling Hogong appears, said Lu Shan. Lu Shan's voice rang out. He appeared before a heavenly god elder of the Ling family as if he had teleported. He smashed the elder's head with a palm strike, destroying the elder's soul. One of the Ling family's heavenly god realm elders was killed. The news of the three overgods from the heavenly demon religion surrounding the sword-seeking province spread very quickly. Like a storm, it spread across the entire divine kingdom of Pingtian and even beyond. It led to a great uproar. On the 9th floor of the royal collection in the royal palace of the divine kingdom of Pingtian, Jianqin currently sat on the ground. He held an ancient scroll in his hand as if he was intoxicated. He had devoted all of his attention to it. This was the cultivation experience and comprehension of the way of the sword left behind by the divine king of the way of the sword. A scroll like this naturally possessed a fatal attraction to Jianqin. He was unable to resist it at all. After reading through the contents of the ancient scroll, Jianqin closed his eyes and began to seriously comprehend the contents of the ancient scroll. A layer of faint, silver-white light appeared around him. It seemed like his body was glowing. In particular, when he was enveloped by the light with his eyes closed, he seemed to possess a hint of holiness. A few strands of sword qi the size of tadpoles gradually appeared around Jianchen. Every single strand was filled with intelligence. They were pure white and flawless, slowly moving around Jianchen. The scroll left behind by the Divine King of the Way of the Sword clearly helped Jianchen quite a lot, allowing him to benefit greatly. Several hours later, Jianchen slowly opened his eyes. A sliver of understanding appeared in his eyes. This scroll should have been left behind by a late Divine King of the Way of the Sword, Jianchen murmured to himself. He carefully placed the scroll back where he had been before, continuing to read the remaining books and scrolls. Jianchen also spent 7 days on the 9th floor. During that time, he had read through all the books and scrolls on the 9th floor. He was about to leave. Suddenly, Jianchen's eyes narrowed. He discovered an inconspicuous metal box in a corner of the 9th floor. If it were not for the fact that he happened to glance over there, he would have directly missed it. Jianchen hesitated slightly, but he still walked over and opened the box in the end. He discovered a thick, ancient book and a finger-sized pearl inside. General Principles of Forging. 4 large, forceful words were written on the book. Jianchen's eyes lit up when he saw the words. In the future, he would personally forge the azulite swords, so he needed to dabble in the forging of weapons. Back on the Tianyuan continent, the quality of the swords he forged was not very high. Coupled with the fact that the sword spirits were guiding him from the side, he did not have a high requirement for forging weapons. However, as time went on, the quality of the swords he forged would rapidly increase as well. As a matter of fact, he would need to possess an impressive ability to forge god artifacts. Although he could find someone to forge the weapons for him, how could he let someone else forge something as important as the swords? This pearl should be the memory pearl that Xiando spoke of. Memory pearls are extremely tough and extremely difficult to destroy. They're usually used to record extremely important things. They're far better than things like books and scrolls. It's just that, according to Xiando, memory pearls are extremely rare. Normally, only experts who rule over an entire region possess them. For something like the divine kingdom of Pingtian, memory pearls don't even exist. Jianchen looked at the pearl again. He was filled with great curiosity. Fortunately, he had a sufficient understanding of memory pearls from Xiando, so he knew how to use them. Jianchen expanded the senses of his soul and slowly approached the memory bead. As soon as the senses of his soul approached the memory bead, a suction force immediately appeared, directly sucking in the senses of his soul. A scroll for teleportation formations. As soon as his soul entered the memory pearl, a tremendous amount of information appeared before Jianchen's eyes. To Jianchen's surprise, the memory pearl actually recorded the method to cast down teleportation formations. Teleportation formations varied in grade. Low-grade ones could only teleport people a short distance away. High-grade teleportation formations could naturally teleport people extremely far away. With the vastness of the cloud plain, it was nothing difficult to directly teleport people from the southern region to the northern region. Not to mention teleportation between realms. Even teleportation between continents or between realms wasn't a problem. The premise was that one had to have reached the pinnacle of the Tao of formations to set up such a teleportation array. A scroll for teleportation formations. Ha. I never thought there would be a scroll for teleportation formations here. I've actually found one here. The heavens are on my side. Jianchen could not help but laugh aloud as he held the memory pearl. He was extremely excited, ever since he had entered the saint's world. Jianchen had never been so emotional. He had never been so excited before. Chapter 1867. Jianchen sucked in a deep breath and forcefully suppressed his surging emotions. He slowly calmed himself down, but he was still unable to hide the burning desire in his eyes when he looked at the memory pearl. The main reason he had come to the library this time was to take out the 3 cultivation methods and battle skills the Divine King had given him. This was because the Tianyuan family was currently developing. The 3 cultivation methods and battle skills that were equivalent to over-gods would just have too great of an impact on the Tianyuan family. Moreover, he wanted to read through the vast amount of cultivation methods and battle skills so that he could benefit from them. Yet now he had actually come across a memory pearl that recorded the method to cast down teleportation formations on the 9th floor by accident. This was definitely a pleasant surprise for him. This was because he could tell with a single glance that the method to cast down teleportation formations recorded in the memory pearl was extremely profound. It was of quite a high grade. Clearly, such a high-grade item could not be bought on the market, although there were also various formations on the market, and they could even be sold in some shops. They were basically the basics. They would not be of much use to Jianchen when casting down teleportation formations that could surpass levels. Jianchen placed the general principles of forging to one side without any hesitation. He calmed himself down and poured all of his attention into comprehending the teleportation formation scroll. Jianchen had spent many years comprehending teleportation formations back on the Tianyuan continent. He was still nowhere close to being able to cast down a true, world-crossing teleportation formation. He might not even be able to cast down a normal one. This was because the teleportation formations he cast down on the Tianyuan continent were more like coordinates. The only value of the teleportation formations was that they could light up the night and guide the way home. However, the many years of comprehension he had spent on the Tianyuan continent had allowed him to accumulate a great deal of experience. He had created a firm foundation. This was like building a skyscraper. Now that the foundation was complete, all that was left was to build on top of it. Jianchen became enthralled by the teleportation formation scroll. He had completely forgotten himself. At that moment, he had become completely immersed in the knowledge regarding teleportation formations recorded in the scroll. After seeing the transfer array scroll, Jianchen finally stepped into the palace of transfer arrays. A trace of enlightenment gradually appeared in Jianchen's eyes. This transfer array scroll seemed to have opened a door in his mind, allowing him to finally come into contact with another world of comprehension. The Tao of teleportation formations was complicated and profound. Although there were many people who comprehended teleportation formations in the Saints' world, most of them were stuck at the initial stages. Very few of them were outstanding. However, not to mention that Jianchen had a certain foundation in the lower realm, he also had extraordinary comprehension. Therefore, if this teleportation array scroll fell into the hands of others, it would take decades or even centuries for them to comprehend it. However, Jianchen might only need a short time to master it. When Jianchen walked out of the 9th floor of the library, half a month had already passed. In this half a month, he had already memorized all the contents of the teleportation array scroll. All that was left was for him to try it out himself. Even the contents of the general principles of weapon refining had been memorized by him. Of course, memorization was one thing, but there were still many problems that needed to be resolved if he wanted to cast down a complete teleportation formation. Most importantly, he lacked the ability to comprehend the way of formations. The way of formations and the way of artifacts were also part of the 3,000 ways, but they were more supportive. Jianchen left the imperial palace and walked through the bustling streets by himself. He directly made his way to the manor he had temporarily stayed in. Jianchen moved extremely quickly. Before long, he had returned to the quiet manor. Patriarch Jianchen, you finally returned. Mo Yen, who was fishing beside the pond, immediately tossed aside her fishing rod when she saw Jianchen. She ran over excitedly. She was filled with joy. Patriarch Jianchen, you've finally returned. You've left me and Sister Shiyu here, and you've even made us afraid to leave the manor. We're afraid that the people of the Yang family will make trouble for us again. Mo Yen came over to Jianchen's side. Her excitement vanished in the blink of an eye. She said bitterly as if she had been wronged. She changed her expression even faster than flipping through a book. She had been overjoyed just a moment ago, but she had become miserable in the blink of an eye. Don't worry. Yang Kai won't dare to act recklessly in the royal capital in the future. Jianchen smiled as he comforted Mo Yen. Shi Yu emerged from her room as well. She said sternly, "Patriarch, something huge happened in the divine kingdom of Pingtian while you were in the imperial palace. The heavenly demon religion sent 3 overgods to deal with the Ling family. They've trapped the entire sword-seeking province." "What did you say?" Jianchen's face changed. He stared at Shi Yu closely and asked, "When did this happen? What's the situation with the Ling family right now?" "It's already been half a month. During that time, the 3 overgods from the heavenly demon religion have killed quite a few people in the sword-seeking province. Even the Ling family has lost a few experts." Shi Yu became rather stern as well. She continued, "While the heavenly demon religion has trapped the Ling family, they've killed a member of the Ling family every day. Now, the Ling family has lost 4 gods and over a dozen deities. If Ling Hogong hadn't appeared, they would have continued killing until they destroyed the entire Ling family or even the entire sword-seeking province." Jianchen's face immediately sank when he heard that the Ling family had actually lost so many godhood experts. A vicious light flickered through his eyes. Since it's already been half a month, have the Divine King and the Grand Imperial Protector not done anything? There are so many overgods in the divine kingdom of Pingtian, so have none of them gone to provide assistance? Jianchen growled. Shi Yu shook her head. Deep fear appeared in her eyes. They're people from the heavenly demon religion. Who would dare to offend them? Whether it's the Divine King, the Grand Imperial Protector, or the other overgods. None of them have done anything. It looks like they don't plan on assisting the Ling family. But that's to be expected, because once they interfere, they'll basically be opposing the heavenly demon religion. With the heavenly demon religion's strength, they can just send out a few people to wipe them out. Even with the entire divine kingdom's strength, they won't be able to fend off a single army from the heavenly demon religion. Didn't the Divine King say that there's no need to fear the heavenly demon religion? Since there's no need to fear them, why isn't he assisting the Ling family? Even if he can't do anything himself due to certain reasons, the Grand Imperial Protector should be able to do something, right? Jianchen murmured. The light in his eyes flickered as he became surprised and doubtful. Or is the Divine King actually trying to get me to oppose the heavenly demon religion so that he can draw out the people behind me to oppose the heavenly demon religion? Jianchen murmured inside. He could not help but think of Fairy Haoyue and Tong Tian, who he had not seen for many years. Jianchen did not know whether his relationship with Fairy Haoyue was just a transaction or if they had gradually become friends. However, Fairy Haoyue's strength was unquestionable. She had been confirmed to be a primordial realm expert in the past. As for Tong Tian, Jianchen only had some personal ties with him, and it was not particularly deep. As a matter of fact, he did not even know this person before the appearance of the Divine King's dwelling. Others don't know about my relationship with Tong Tian. They only saw Tong Tian save me when he was protected by a Divine King. Perhaps it was because of this that made them think about how close my relationship with Tong Tian was, or perhaps they believed that I had some great background. Then when the Divine King told me that there's no need to fear the heavenly demon religion, did he really have no need to fear them? Or was he purposefully trying to get me to oppose the heavenly demon religion like I guessed? He wanted to draw out Fairy Haoyue and Tong Tian through me, so that he could use their strength to deal with the heavenly demon religion? For a moment, Jianchen was rather uncertain about the Divine King's intentions. Chapter 1868. Patriarch, what are you trying to do? Are you going to help the Ling family? That's provoking the heavenly demon religion. You'll become an enemy of the heavenly demon religion. Shi was shocked. Her eyes widened as she stared at Jianchen in disbelief. In her opinion, saving the Ling family was definitely the same as saving the Ling family. Although the patriarch was very powerful, no weaker than Yang Koa, who was known as the greatest expert below the Divine King in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Even if the three overgods who surrounded the Ling family worked together, they would not necessarily be the patriarch's opponent. However, even though the patriarch possessed the strength to kill them, doing so would be equivalent to becoming an enemy of the heavenly demon religion. This was no different from courting death to the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. Jianqin stared at Shiyu and said sternly, "I have my own decisions regarding this matter. Shiyu, leave the royal capital with Mo Yin immediately and return to the Tian Yuan clan. I have a mission for you." Afterwards, Jianqin found a brush and ink and wrote down several dozen materials in a hurry. Afterwards, he passed it to Shiyu and said, "Once you return to the clan, inform all the elders of the clan to gather all the materials on this list as quickly as possible. The more, the better." Shiyu knew that Jianqin had already made up his mind. Once an overgod made up his mind, it was impossible for her to change his mind. As a result, Shiyu could only sigh gently inside. She left the royal capital with a list of materials Jianqin had written down with Mo Yin. Jianqin did not stay any longer after Shiyu and Mo Yin left. After confirming the direction, he hurried off to the sword-seeking province. Jianqin still felt that he was not fast enough as he hurried through the air. He formed a seal with his hand and used the linear lightning release. He turned into a bolt of lightning as he shot off with unbelievable speed. The duration of the linear lightning incantation was very short. Every time it was used, one's speed would only increase for a short instant. But even so, using the linear lightning incantation once would allow one to cross an extremely long distance. Jianqin executed the linear lightning incantation consecutively and flew towards Sword-Seeking County as fast as he could. The Divine King and the Grand Imperial Protector currently sat in a pavilion in the Imperial Gardens of the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian. They played chess leisurely. Jianqin has already left the royal capital. He's currently making his way to the sword-seeking province. Just as I expected, he really is going to save the Ling family, the Divine King said confidently. The Grand Imperial Protector raised his head when he heard that. He looked at the Divine King and said, "Pingtian, there's something I don't quite understand. Didn't you say that there was no need to worry about the heavenly demon religion anymore? Since there's no need to worry, why don't you get the commander of the Royal Divine Army, Xiando, to deal with the three overgods? Since you're worried about what trump cards the three overgods of the heavenly demon religion are hiding, and you're worried that Xiando won't be their opponent, why don't you get me to go personally? With my strength, I believe that no matter what trump cards they have, they won't be able to pose any threat to me at all." The Grand Imperial Protector paused when he reached there. He continued, "Or in other words, is it false that there's no need to worry about the heavenly demon religion? Do you want to use this opportunity to draw out the people behind Jianqin? Do you want to borrow their strength to fend off the heavenly demon religion?" The Divine King shook his head. There is indeed no need to worry about the heavenly demon religion now. The people of the empires have indeed been paying attention to the actions of the heavenly demon religion. In the past few years, I've already vaguely sensed several powerful senses of the soul extending over. They're basically all primordial realm experts from the empires. The reason why I don't want you to take action is because both you and Xiando represent the imperial family of our divine kingdom of Pingtian. If you take action, the heavenly demon religion will believe that our divine kingdom of Pingtian is opposing them. With how the heavenly demon religion does things, they'll probably go as far as to fight against our divine kingdom of Pingtian, even though they know that they'll come into conflict with the empires to protect their dignity. However, Jianqin is different. His Tian Yuan family has only been established for less than a century. Strictly speaking, he's not a part of our divine kingdom of Pingtian. If he takes action against the heavenly demon religion, there's an extremely great chance that we can avoid a war with the heavenly demon religion. The Grand Imperial Protector's eyes lit up when he heard that. He added, "Moreover, Jianqin has a primordial realm expert who has recovered his body behind him, as well as a young master of a great clan who has the Divine King as his bodyguard. If Jianchen really does kill the three overgods, the heavenly demon religion will have to carefully consider whether they should offend a primordial realm expert and a great clan for the deaths of the three overgods. Pingtian, when you suddenly mentioned the heavenly demon religion to Jianchen, did you already know that the heavenly demon religion would come looking for Ling Hogong? The divine king said, "The reason why there's no need to fear the heavenly demon religion is because the empires will step forward to stop them. As for the three overgods that have trapped the sword-seeking province, only Jianchen can kill them. It's not suitable for the other overgods to take action. Pingtian, when Jianchen came last time, you suddenly mentioned the heavenly demon religion. Soon afterwards, there was news that the heavenly demon religion had trapped the sword-seeking province. Did you already know that the people of the heavenly demon religion would come looking for Ling Hogong?" The Grand Imperial Protector asked. The divine king smiled and pointed at the chessboard. "It's your turn." In the provincial city of the sword-seeking province, the patriarch of the Ling family, Ling Majian, and the many gods stood in the Ling family with extremely sunken faces. Moreover, there were thousands of clansmen of the Ling family. Their faces had paled long ago. They were ashen and filled with despair. Lu Shan and two other early overgod deputies stood on a black cloud in the sky. They hovered in the air as they stared down, coldly. Even though this was the divine kingdom of Pingtian, the three of them were fearless and fearless. They did not believe that anyone would step forward to stop them. This was because the 9th Army of the heavenly demon religion was stationed in the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons, near the divine kingdom of Ping'an. Suddenly, a black thread extended from the huge black net that enveloped the entire provincial city. It directly wrapped around an elder of the Ling family before pulling him into the air. The many elders of the Ling family were powerless to stop this. They could not do anything because this was Lu Shan's method. In the past few days, Lu Shan had already used the same method to brutally kill several elders of the Ling family. Another day has passed. Today, we will kill this heavenly deity. Ling Majian, if you ask your ancestor to return, he can still protect this person's life. After all, our original intention wasn't to act against the Ling clan. Lu Shan coldly spoke. Ling Majian closed his eyes in pain. He was filled with grief. After waiting for so many days, there were still no reinforcements from the God Nation. He knew that the Ling family was doomed. However, Ling Majian did not blame anyone. As a matter of fact, this outcome was within his expectations. After all, they were up against the heavenly demon religion. Chapter 1869. Ling Majian, it looks like you've still chosen to give up on this god. Lu Shan stood on the black cloud and said coldly. Then he sighed gently and shook his head in pity. To think that this god was an elder of your Ling family. Even if he didn't contribute much, he still worked hard. However, in the end, he was mercilessly abandoned by your Ling family. You clearly could have saved him and saved him from death, but you chose not to. It looks like all the gods in your clan are worthless in the eyes of the patriarch. How pitiful, how lamentable. As he said that, Lu Shan slowly clenched his hand. The black thread around the god of the Ling family immediately tightened as Lu Shan clenched his hand. The threads were like sharp blades, slowly cutting into the heavenly god's flesh. Fresh blood immediately flowed out, dyeing his entire body red. In the blink of an eye, the god had been reduced to a bloody figure. It was a horrible sight. The black thread under Lu Shan's control clearly could have cut the god to pieces in a single moment. However, he did not plan on dealing with his opponent in a single moment. He purposefully created a shocking scene for the people of the Ling family to see so that he could mentally attack them. Ling Majian, I'll give you 10 more seconds to consider. If you contact Ling Hogong or if Ling Hogong appears, I'll spare this person. Otherwise, this person will definitely be cut to pieces, Lu Shan said coldly. However, he became rather anxious and annoyed inside. So many days had passed, yet he still had not completed the mission that the commander of the Ninth Legion, Yan Wuming, had given him. Once he took too long, he would probably make the commander displeased. If you want to kill me, then kill me. I, the old man, am not someone who fears death. Patriarch, you can't contact the ancestor. The ancestor can't come back. He can't appear here. As long as the ancestor is still here, even if the Ling family is destroyed today, it can be rebuilt in the future. The god, wrapped around by the black thread, roared out furiously. He did not fear death at all. You're looking to die. Lu Shan's face sank. Killing intent filled his eyes as he glared at the god. Ah! That heavenly deity let out a miserable shriek. The black threads had already penetrated deep into his flesh, cutting into his bones like sharp blades. He could even feel all the bones in his body breaking apart. Even his head was no exception. Everyone from the Ling family closed their eyes, unwilling to see this scene. Their faces were filled with sorrow, and a few elders even shed tears of sorrow. Stop! Suddenly, a voice rang out from the distance. At first, the voice was very weak, as soft as a mosquito's. However, it rapidly grew at an unbelievable speed. When the final word rang out, it had already turned into a bolt of heavenly thunder, descending from the sky in a mighty manner. The terrifying sound waves even turned into ripples visible to the naked eye. As they spread out, they actually caused the entire city to tremble slightly. Before the countless people in the city could react, a resplendent streak of light suddenly flew over from the distant sky. It shone with endless light, illuminating the entire world like the scorching sun in the sky. The streak of light was just too bright. Before it, the black clouds condensed from demonic aura that enveloped the sword-seeking province paled in comparison. The streak of light moved extremely quickly, shooting over from the distance. In a flash, it had crossed an extremely great distance and arrived above the sword-seeking province. Without slowing down at all, it directly collided with the huge black net that enveloped the sword-seeking province. Boom! Amidst the deafening sound, the black net that Lu Shan had laid down was directly torn apart by the sword light, creating a huge hole that was at least 100 feet in diameter. The sword light rushed into the county city of swordsmanship-seeking county in an unstoppable manner. The black net was a medium-quality saint artifact. Lu Shan had already refined it, becoming one with his life. As a result, Lu Shan was affected by the destruction of the black net. His face immediately paled, and he produced a grunt that he had hidden extremely well. His body trembled violently as well. Lu Shan was injured, while the god from the Ling family, who was bound by the black threads, managed to escape. He directly fell from the sky and was caught by another god of the Ling family. The streak of light dispersed in the city, revealing a white-robed young man who seemed to be in his 20s. The young man was the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Jianchen. At this moment, the light around Jianchen was withdrawn. He hovered above the Ling family like an ordinary person. He stared at the three over-gods of the heavenly demon religion from afar as his eyes shone with cold light. All the elders of the Ling family were stunned when they saw Jianchen hover in the sky. Mixed emotions filled their faces. There was joy and surprise, but there were also sighs. The elders who sighed naturally did not wish for Jianchen to come. If that happened, the Tianyuan family would have offended the heavenly demon religion as well. This is... An elder could not help but cry out. However, as soon as he said that, Ling Majian covered his mouth firmly. We are the 9th army of the heavenly demon religion, directly under the command of our commander, Yan Wuming. Who are you? How dare you interfere with the matters of our heavenly demon religion? Do you want to become enemies with our heavenly demon religion? One of Lu Shan's deputies said coldly. His gaze was piercing. Heavenly demon religion, you've gone too far. You slaughter a group of people who are only gods at most with your strength as over-gods. Since you like slaughtering the weak so much, I'll let the three of you experience that today. Jianchen said coldly. His face was sunken and filled with killing intent. The senses of his soul had already enveloped the entire sword-seeking province. He discovered that over 1,000 other people had died to Lu Shan's hands aside from the Ling family. Every single one of them had died in an extremely miserable state, having been cut into countless pieces. With a thought, the high-quality Saint artifact, the startling rainbow sword, appeared in Jianchen's hand. Although he could kill the 3 overgods, even without the startling rainbow sword with his current strength, he wanted to end the battle quickly. The face of the early overgod who had spoken earlier sank. Just when he was about to speak, Jianchen had already struck out. He was swift and decisive. He suddenly arrived before one of the early overgods and directly stabbed the startling rainbow sword towards the early overgod's forehead. Jianchen's presence changed drastically at that moment as well. His presence surged as his sword shone brightly. He seemed to have fused with the sword in his hand, controlling the laws of the sword. He was like a god of the sword. The early overgod's expression changed drastically. He felt like his presence had been locked onto by Jianchen's attack. Every inch of space around him seemed to be filled with invisible sword chi, making him feel like he could not dodge. In that split second, the early overgod reacted quickly. He unleashed his demonic attacks as demonic aura surged from him. He suddenly swung out with a huge, 2-handed sword wrapped in black flames. However, how could he be Jianchen's opponent? As soon as they came in contact, he felt a terrifying, irresistible energy surge over. It directly knocked his huge sword away. The deputy general spat out a mouthful of blood as his face paled. He was extremely shocked. In just a single exchange of blows, he had suffered extremely severe injuries. Late overgod. The lieutenant cried out. He also knew that this was definitely not a regular late overgod. However, that was all he could say. As soon as he finished speaking, Jianchen stabbed out with lightning speed a second time. It was a simple strike, but it seemed to possess the mysteries of endless laws, making it seem like it possessed the might of the heavens. Chapter 1870. Lu Shan and the other early overgod still had yet to return to their senses, even when the early overgod's head had been pierced by Jianchen's sword. It was not just the 2 of them. Even the countless people gathered in the city below, as well as all the young and old of the Ling family, were stunned. Their eyes all widened in disbelief. Fast. It was just too fast. From when Jianchen struck out to when he killed the early overgod, just far too little time had passed. It was so short that many people found it hard to believe. Overgods, even early overgods, were unreachable existences to the people in the provincial city who were only gods at most. As long as a clan possessed an overgod, they could instantly become a peak clan in a divine kingdom. But now, with just 2 swords, he had killed an existence that was unreachable in their eyes. The time it took from start to finish was less than a breath, or even a second at most. In just a second, he had killed an early overgod. This scene deeply shocked everyone. Why? You dare to kill an overgod of our heavenly demon religion. Our heavenly demon religion will never spare you. Lu Shan and the other deputy were shocked. They stared at Jianchen in fear as they tried to act tough. Jianchen had struck out suddenly, and he was extremely fast as well. They were unable to save him in time. Moreover, what shocked them even more was Jianchen's strength. His strength was so great that even among late overgods he was at the very peak. Jianchen had indeed benefited greatly from his trip to the royal collection. In particular, the scroll containing the comprehensions and experiences of a god king who had comprehended the laws of the sword left behind by a god king at the very least benefited Jianchen greatly. He gained some new insights, allowing his comprehension of the laws of the sword to increase slightly once again. Of course, this was nowhere near enough for him to break through to the partial achievement of sword spirit. He remained at the partial achievement of sword spirit right now. However, It was obvious that his comprehension of the sword Dao had led to an increase in combat strength. Jianqin did not stop at all. He drew the startling rainbow sword, and sword qi filled the air as he shot towards the mid-overgod Lu Shan. He was unstoppable. Lu Shan's expression became extremely solemn. With a thought, the black net that enveloped the swordsmanship-seeking county suddenly tightened. In an instant, it turned into a black rope that burned with black, demonic flames. As Lu Shan waved his arm, the rope turned into a black streak of light and was pulled out. At the same time, the other early overgod deputy struck out as well. He held a black spike in his hand, which was also enveloped by a layer of demonic flames. He used a truth-tier battle skill without any hesitation. The black spike expanded to several meters in a single instance. It pulsed with the powerful energy of an overgod. Under the vice-general's control, it stabbed towards Jianqin as hard as it could. It was a shocking sight. However, even when Lu Shan and the vice-general worked together, they were still not Jianqin's opponent. The disparity in their strength was just too great. Jianqin severed the black net in Lu Shan's hand with a single stroke, destroying the medium-quality saint artifact. Lu Shan vomited blood as a mist of blood filled the air. He stabbed towards the other vice-general with lightning speed with his second attack. He directly used a regular method to fend off the battle skill. Boom! With a boom, the battle skill the vice-general used was dispersed by Jianqin. A deep cut had even appeared on his spike, which was also a medium-quality saint artifact. It had almost split in half. Spurt, the early overgod, also vomited blood. His face became extremely pale at that moment. With his strength clashing head-on with Jianqin, who had basically reached the peak of overgod, was no different from trying to strike a rock with an egg. Lu Shan and the other vice-general were shocked. They glanced at the cold and murderous Jianqin in fear and made a decision together. They immediately took out a teleportation formation disk from their space rings and activated it as quickly as possible. A vicious light flickered through Jianqin's eyes when he saw the two of them flee. He snorted coldly. "You won't be able to escape that easily." With that, the startling rainbow sword shone brightly. At that moment, the startling rainbow sword seemed to possess a mind of its own, flying out of Jianqin's hand and stabbing towards the vice-general with great speed. "Dalio sword!" At the same time, Jianqin called out. He formed a seal with his right hand, and a golden strand of sword qi condensed above his head. It turned into a golden streak of light and shot towards Lu Shan with lightning-like speed. Jianqin controlled the sword with his soul. Before the early overgod could activate the teleportation formation disk completely, the white streak of light from the startling rainbow sword pierced through his forehead, wiping out his soul immediately. Lu Shan was no exception. Even though he activated the teleportation formation disk extremely quickly, Jianqin's Dalio sword qi was even faster. Before he could activate the teleportation formation disk, the golden Dalio sword qi had cut off his head. Under the violent sweep of the sword qi, his head directly exploded in the air. His soul was wiped out as well. Even his soul failed to escape. The three overgods of the heavenly demon religion had all died. None of them had managed to escape. Countless people in the sword-seeking province below raised their heads to look at the sky. They were stunned, and many of them had even become extremely pale. They had become pale from fright. In just a few seconds, they had personally witnessed three powerful overgods being slain by someone with lightning speed. Many of them felt like they were dreaming. It did not seem real. The impact on their minds was unprecedentedly great. Such a thought even appeared in the minds of many people. Overgods were actually so weak. Jianqin stowed the startling rainbow sword away. His face remained the same as before. He glanced at the sword-seeking province below before looking at the patriarch of the Ling family, Ling Majin. He said, "The heavenly demon religion probably won't just let this matter go. For the sake of the continuation of the clan, It's best if your Ling family makes preparations to relocate. Everyone in the Ling family looked at Jianqin with admiration and deep gratitude. Ling Majian even bowed deeply towards Jianqin with everyone in the clan. He said, "Our Ling family will never forget Senior's kindness. We will consider relocating the clan carefully. After all, this matter is just too important. We can't make a rash decision." Ling Majian did not dare to mention Jianqin's name. He was worried that too many people would hear it and the heavenly demon religion would learn about it, which would lead to trouble for the Tianyuan family. Although he knew that he could not hide this matter for very long, and the heavenly demon religion could easily find the culprit if they wanted to, the later the heavenly demon religion learned that the culprit was the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Jianqin the Better. Jianqin said nothing more. After removing the space rings from the 3 overgods, he did not even check what was inside. He directly left the sword-seeking province. After Jianqin's departure, the patriarch of the Ling family, Ling Majian, stared at the elders beside him sternly. He communicated with them secretly, sternly warning them not to reveal that the 3 elders of the heavenly demon religion had been killed by Jianqin. Chapter 1871. The news of the 3 overgods from the heavenly demon religion that surrounded the sword-seeking province spread through the entire divine kingdom of Pingtian in the shortest amount of time possible. It immediately caused a great uproar in the divine kingdom. All the clans with overgods were shocked. They all guessed who this person was, since he was bold enough to kill people from the heavenly demon religion. Moreover, the people he had killed were 3 overgods. Even to a large organization like the heavenly demon religion, overgods were not insignificant figures. They possessed some status. Not only did the deaths of the 3 overgods from the Empyrean demon cult cause an uproar in the divine kingdom of Pingtian, but it even reached the nearby divine kingdoms in an extremely short amount of time. No matter who it was, they were all stunned by the news. On one hand, they admired the person's courage, and on the other hand, they were amazed by the person's strength. He had actually killed 3 overgods in such a short amount of time. Even many late overgods might not be able to achieve something like that. He killed 3 overgods in just a few seconds, and one of them was a mid-overgod. Was the person who did it the divine king? That's just a rumor. Perhaps the 3 overgods from the heavenly demon religion really were killed by a single person. But it's definitely not as exaggerated as the rumor, where the battle ended in just a few seconds. It's probably exaggerated by the rumor. Discussions like that rang out everywhere. Basically, all the people above the 9th layer believed that the rumor had been exaggerated, while the people who had reached the 1st layer doubted it. Jianqin's strength has actually reached such a level. It's unbelievable. It's truly unbelievable. The commander of the Royal Divine Army, Xiandou, sighed in amazement as he stood in the study of the general's estate. He could not help but think of the first time he had met Jianqin. Back then, he had personally witnessed Jianqin defeat Weineryan. He was only a mid-overgod. The second time they met, it had only been a few tens of years. But Jianqin already possessed the strength to fight Yang Kai, and the speed at which his strength improved caused him to be flabbergasted. But now, Jianqin had actually killed 3 overgods of the heavenly demon religion in such a short amount of time. His strength was even greater than when he fought Yang Kai. Could it be that Jianqin's strength is growing all the time? If this continues, it won't be long before he can enter the ranks of the Divine King. Xiandou sighed emotionally. He didn't believe the rumors. Instead, he had planted people outside Sword-Seek province who were constantly in control of the situation. Thus, even if he didn't know everything that happened in Sword-Seeking County, he was very close. The Tianyuan family is not to be trifled with in the future. At the same time, the ancestors of a few overgod organizations in the divine kingdom of Pingtian warned their subordinates sternly. They feared Jianqin to the extreme. In the Yang family, the ancestor of the Yang family, Yang Kai, was heavily injured after his battle with Jianqin. He did not recover as quickly as Jianqin. Even after ingesting healing pills, he still needed some time to make a full recovery. At this moment, when Yang Kai heard that Jianqin had killed 3 overgods of the heavenly demon religion, he immediately sneered. He said sternly, "How can the people of the heavenly demon religion be killed so easily? Moreover, they're 3 overgods. The heavenly demon religion will never let this matter rest. Moreover, this matter is connected to a vice leader of the heavenly demon religion to a certain degree. Jianqin, you've really done it now. It'll be difficult for you to avoid death." Yang Kai took pleasure in Yang Kai's misfortune. Jianqin had already returned to the Tianyuan family in the Dong and province. At this moment, the discussion hall of the Tianyuan family had been enveloped by a barrier and formation. Not only did it cut off the sounds inside, but it also cut off the senses of the soul from the outside world. Jianqin sat on the patriarch's throne in luxurious white robes in the discussion hall very casually. Below him sat over 20 people of various ages. The youngest seemed to be around 14 or 15. They were still underage. The older ones had a head of silver hair and hunched backs. They were in their twilight years. These people were the upper echelon of the Tianyuan family. All of them were gods. The youngest among them was a white-robed young man. His face was cold, and his eyes shone brightly. He gave off a vague presence of slaughter. Even though there was still a trace of immaturity on his face that had yet to be removed, sitting there, he caused many people present to cast fearful gazes at him. During the years that Jianqin had been gone, the Tianyuan family had rapidly strengthened. Many gods had joined the Tianyuan family out of admiration, becoming elders. This was why the Tianyuan family possessed so many gods today. Jianqin glanced down, and in the end, his gaze landed on the young man who only seemed to be 14 or 15 years old. He could not help but smile. He felt gratified. This was because the young man in white was the white tiger. He had become a god now. Even though he was only an early god, a few of the mid-gods present were rather fearful of him. Aside from them, Shiyu, Mo Ling, and Ofu, and a few gods from the Nanyan clan, one of the 3 great clans of the Dong and province, were present as well. The Nanyan clan had completely become a part of the Tianyuan family now. Originally, they had joined the Tianyuan family in hopes of being able to rely on an overgod and find a powerful backer. However, they had indeed benefited greatly after joining the Tianyuan family. They had benefited greatly. All of the cultivation methods they practiced were overgod level cultivation methods that Jianqin had left behind. I believe everyone knows that the 3 overgods of the heavenly demon religion have been killed. The Tianyuan family might not be peaceful in the future. I've gathered everyone here today to give you a choice. You can decide whether you want to stay or leave. If you want to leave, I won't stop you, Jianqin said sternly. A few of the elders present hesitated. In the end, a few of them chose to leave, leaving the Tianyuan family. And these celestial deity realm elders that left actually accounted for more than half of the total number. However, Nanyan Tong and the others chose to stay without any hesitation at all. They were very confident in Jianqin. They knew that Jianqin would definitely find a way to survive this crisis. Moreover, the Tianyuan family had treated them like one of their own. They had gradually developed a sense of belonging with the Tianyuan family. Now that the clan was in danger, it was time for them to demonstrate their loyalty. Mo Ling and Ando Fu also chose to stay without any hesitation. To the 2 of them, perhaps their feelings for the Tianyuan family were even deeper than Jianqin's feelings for them. This was because Jianqin rarely took care of things. Basically, every single brick, tile, and tree here had been constructed under the 2 of them. This was equivalent to a brand new home to them. Jianqin's expression did not change at all when he saw that there were only 10 gods left apart from the white tiger. He said, "All right, since you're not planning to leave and would rather die with the Tianyuan family, I, Jianqin, promise you that if we can survive this crisis successfully, I will definitely not mistreat you in the future." "Shiyu, have you collected the materials I asked you to?" Jianqin looked at Shiyu. Shiyu took out a space ring and passed it to Jianchen. She said, "Patriarch, I've gathered all the materials that can be collected from the elders. They're all in this space ring. Moreover, we've sent some people to the other provincial cities to collect them as well. I believe a second batch of materials will arrive soon." Chapter 1872. Jianchen sat in a secret room in the forbidden grounds of the Tianyuan family. He took out various materials from his space ring one by one. At the same time, he activated the chaotic force in his dantian and burned his chaotic flames to refine the materials. The materials he had Shiyu collect were all for casting down the teleportation formation. Even though the Divine King had said that there was no need to fear the heavenly demon religion and that there would be people from the Empire to stop them even if they did invade the divine kingdom of Pingtian en masse. However, Jianchen had no idea how much of the Divine King's words could be trusted. Moreover, even if the Divine King was telling the truth, he could not place all his hopes on the distant empires. He needed to choose a path of retreat for himself so that the heavenly demon religion could destroy the Tianyuan family. Right now, the best path of retreat before me is through the teleportation formation. I need to cast down the teleportation formation as soon as possible. If the heavenly demon religion invades, the Tianyuan family will be able to leave through the teleportation formation, Jianchen thought. Several materials hovered before him as chaotic flames burned between his hands. He was completely focused on forging the materials for the teleportation formation. Fortunately, he was not casting down a teleportation formation that could cross worlds, planes, or regions. It was only a teleportation formation that could cross the distance of a single divine kingdom. It was not of particularly high quality, so it did not require a great understanding of teleportation formations. With Jianchen's current grasp and familiarity with teleportation formations, he believed that he would be able to cast down a teleportation formation that could cross the distance between divine kingdoms before long. Naturally, casting down a teleportation formation of this level did not require a great amount of materials. As a result, there were over 100 sets of materials in his space ring. Every single set was enough to cast down a teleportation formation. 3 days later, Jianchen finished forging over 100 sets of materials for the teleportation formation. Without pausing at all, he immediately began to try and formally cast down the teleportation formation in the secret room. Boom, boom, boom. In the following period of time, Jianchen's secret room constantly boomed. This was the sound of the teleportation formation failing. The energy in the formation had gone out of control, resulting in explosions. Although the transfer array scroll had allowed Jianchen's understanding and mastery of transfer arrays to a whole new level, there was still a long way to go before he could set up a complete transfer array. This journey required Jianchen to accumulate experience through repeated failures. There's slightly more skyflower stones. The array cores are arranged in the wrong order. This time the teleportation formation was activated too quickly, causing the power of teleportation to go berserk and destroy the entire formation. Inside the secret room, Jianchen was already covered in dust, but he didn't notice it at all. He tirelessly set up the teleportation formation, accumulating experience from his failures. Every time he failed, Jianchen's understanding of the teleportation formation would increase. Every time he failed, Jianchen would accumulate extremely valuable experience. Gradually, Jianchen's teleportation formation became closer and closer to completion. The number of times it exploded gradually decreased as well. Half a month later, when Jianchen finished setting up the final set of materials, the gloomy secret room suddenly lit up. A powerful teleportation force permeated the entire room. A formation that was 10 meters in diameter appeared on the floor of the secret room. It was complicated and profound, radiating with dazzling light. It disturbed the space there, causing the space in the secret room to fluctuate unstably. Spatial ripples appeared. "It's done!" The light in Jianchen's eyes shone brightly. He was filled with excitement. He had finally finished setting up the last set of materials. Unlike on the Tianyuan continent, the teleportation formations he had cast down on the Tianyuan continent only served as coordinates and guides. They were like lanterns in the dark, guiding him home so that he would not get lost. However, the teleportation formation he had cast down could truly teleport people away. It was so vast that it could directly cross over to a divine kingdom. Of course, Jianqin still needed to cast down the other end of the teleportation formation. However, he had already used up all the materials he possessed. If he wanted to cast down a second teleportation formation, he needed to get the materials from Shiyu. Jianqin emerged from seclusion. When he emerged from the secret room, he discovered that she was already waiting outside. She held a space ring tightly in her hand. Aside from Shiyu, there were also the people who had come to the Saints' world with Jianqin from the Tianyuan continent. Houston, the White Tiger, Shangguanmu, Shaojin, Shaoling, Ruijin, Blackfish, Honglian, Nubi, Xiongzhong, Chengjian, and so on had all gathered there. Uncle Xiao, you've actually become a god as well. Houston looked to be in his 70s, but his face was ruddy and full of vigor. He was no longer the snow-white-haired man of the past. His unrestrained white hair that casually draped over his back had already turned crimson red. Paired with his blood-red robe that seemed to have been dyed in blood, his entire person seemed to imperceptibly reveal the aura of a demon. Jianqin was not surprised by Houston's demonic presence, because he was the one who had personally given the amigami to Houston. Houston practiced the demonic cultivation method, so he naturally possessed some demonic presence. However, what did surprise him was that Houston's rate of improvement was just too fast. It could be described as heaven-defying. This was because Houston had not even reached godhood when he had first arrived in the Saints' world. Now he had become a god in less than 100 years. If news of this made it out, it would truly be rather shocking. It's all thanks to the item you gave me. It's all because of it that my strength can improve so quickly, Houston said emotionally. Only he understood just how precious the amigami that Jianqin had given him was. It was a treasure that had changed his fate. Whenever Houston cultivated, the amigami would derive the mysteries of supreme laws and pass them on personally, allowing Houston's comprehension of laws to skyrocket. It was extremely shocking. You've actually become a late god. Afterwards, Jianqin looked at the purple-dressed Shangguanmu, who possessed an otherworldly presence. He was surprised once again. However, Jianqin understood very soon. Shangguanmu, was the mother of the innate chaotic body. She was blessed by the heavens and protected by the world, so her rate of cultivation was naturally extremely fast. If she did not die, she would definitely become an immortal emperor in the future. Jianqin looked around and discovered that only the White Tiger, Houston, and Shangguanmu had become gods. The others had all stepped into the human celestial realm. Out of the 4 people from the world of Forsaken Saints, only Xiongzhong and Chengjian had become early deities. The other 2 remained at returnants. Patriarch, these are all the materials we've collected in the past few days. At this moment, Shiyu passed the space ring in her hand to Jianqin. Her expression was rather ugly. Jianqin accepted the space ring and immediately frowned. Why are there so few? There's only around 30 portions. Patriarch, we originally wanted to buy far more than that, but some accidents happened to the people we sent out to buy the materials. Over 20 groups of people were killed in the wilderness, and all the materials we bought from other provincial cities were stolen. We suffered quite a loss. If it weren't for Elder Houston and Elder Siu, who managed to retrieve some of the materials, we probably would have obtained even less, said Shiyu. A gleam of light flashed through Jianqin's eyes when he heard that. Killing intent flickered, and he growled, "Do you know who did it?" Houston said, "We still don't know who they are. We only know that they were all deities, and there were even gods who moved against us. Sacred Feather and I have also captured 2 heavenly gods and a few deities, but these people would rather self-detonate than reveal their identities. Who's Siyu? Jianchen could not help but become slightly doubtful when he heard the name Siyu for the second time. This was because he had never heard of the name before. "Brother, Siyu is me," said the white tiger. The little white tiger opened its mouth to speak. "My mother originally gave me a name, but I thought it didn't sound good, so I gave myself a name not long ago." Jianchen nodded with a smile. The white tiger's original form was rather extraordinary, and his bloodline was very powerful. He was able to directly break through to the origin realm even when he was sealed in the lower world, so he probably possessed a great background. He was indeed worthy of the title of saint. Moreover, he had a pair of wings on his back, so the title of feather was extremely appropriate. However, what Jianchen did not know was that the white tiger's original form was not actually the winged tiger. The winged tiger was only a title given to him by the people of the lower world. His true identity was the Siyu Tiger Emperor with an extremely powerful bloodline. The name Siyu clearly came from the white tiger. It came from the first two words of Siyu Tiger Emperor. Jianchen said after a moment of thought, "As long as they've reached godhood, whether they're deities or gods, they should possess some fame in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Haven't you found any clues?" She said, "We thought of that a long time ago, and we've sent people to investigate, but we still found nothing. It's as if no one knows about the existence of these godhood experts. Or, in other words, they don't come from the divine kingdom of Pingtian. They don't even come from the nearby divine kingdoms." Xiu paused when she reached there. She hesitated slightly before adding, however, Nanyan Tong said that a few long-established over-god organizations all possess some hidden forces. As a result, we're guessing that the godhood experts who attacked us while we were purchasing materials are the hidden forces of a large clan. Is it the Yang family? Or the Mo family of the divine kingdom of Qingyang? Jianchen murmured as the light in his eyes flickered. The only over-god organizations he had grievances with were the Wainer clan, the Yang family, and the Mo family. Jianchen directly ruled out the Wainer clan because they did not possess such a heritage. Chapter 1873. Be careful in the next few days. At the same time, it's best if the clansmen don't leave the Dong'an province. The Tianyuan family is currently facing a lot of trouble. There's probably a few organizations who know that we don't have the energy to deal with them right now, so they're purposefully creating some problems for us, Jianchen said coldly. His eyes were as sharp as swords. The fact that someone from the Tianyuan family had been attacked had already aroused killing intent in him. This was because the importance of the materials for the teleportation formation to the Tianyuan family went without saying. It would directly affect the fate of the Tianyuan family. Shangguan Mu, Houston, Siyu, and the others were extremely stern. After learning about the power of the heavenly demon religion, all of them had realized just how great the threat the Tianyuan family faced was. Suddenly, Jianchen's face changed. He beamed and said, "A friend has returned. Let's go and receive him." Afterwards, Jianchen led the people from the Tianyuan continent out of the forbidden grounds. They directly arrived at the entrance of the Tianyuan family. At this moment, a middle-aged man stood outside the entrance of the Tianyuan clan. Judging from his appearance, he seemed to be in his 40s. His black hair draped over his shoulders and reached his waist. His appearance was very ordinary, and he belonged to the type that would not attract any attention if thrown into a crowd. He wore a simple black suit and carried a simple black iron sword on his back. The Spirit King. The Spirit King has returned. When Xiongzhong and the others saw the middle-aged man, they were immediately overjoyed. They became overjoyed. The middle-aged man was Shen Jian, who had left several decades ago. Shen Jian, you sure have picked a bad time to return. Jianchen looked at Shen Jian. Even though he had a smile on his face, it was impossible to tell whether it was a smile of joy or a smile of bitterness. However, he could already tell that Shen Jian was an overgod. Shen Jian met Jianchen's gaze. His indifferent gaze possessed a sharpness that was as sharp as a sword. Originally, I didn't plan on returning so soon, but you killed 3 overgods from the heavenly demon religion, so I had no choice but to return early. Xinjian's expression did not change at all as he said calmly. Afterwards, he glanced past Xiongzhong and the others and nodded slightly. Jianqin chuckled. All right, since you're willing to jump into this pit of fire, let's struggle in it together. Come, let's go in first. Jianqin and Xinjian sat before each other in a secret room of the Tianyuan clan. Only the 2 of them were present in the room. The heavenly demon religion is powerful. You've killed 3 of their overgods, so they probably won't just let the matter go. How do you plan on dealing with them? Xinjian directly cut to the chase. Isn't it just a matter of dealing with whatever comes our way? If we can't stop them, we can only retreat and move everyone in the clan away through the teleportation formation, Jianqin said. He did not hide anything from Xinjian. He told him his plan. At the same time, he told Xinjian everything he had heard from the Divine King without missing a single detail. Xinjian said after some thought, the crux of the problem right now is whether the Divine King's words are reliable or not. If it really is, as the Divine King has said, that the people of the Empire will take action once the heavenly demon religion invades the divine kingdom of Pingtian, there's no need for us to worry too much. It doesn't matter whether the Divine King's words are reliable or not, but we can't place our hopes on others. Jianqin said. He stared at Xinjian with shining eyes and said sternly, I've already cast down the teleportation formation in the Tianyuan family, but I still need to cast down a teleportation formation on the other side. Only then can we teleport to the safe location I've chosen. Originally, I was worried that someone would move against the Tianyuan family after I left. Now that you're here, I don't have to worry at all. Xinjian nodded. Go without worries. Leave the safety of this place to me. However, activating the teleportation formation requires energy. There are so many people in the clan, so it'll take quite a lot of divine crystals to teleport them all away. Jianqin said. He immediately took out the space rings he had obtained from the 3 overgods of the heavenly demon religion. He checked them and discovered that there were close to 20 blocks of high-grade divine crystals in there. Aside from that, there were some scattered mid-grade divine crystals as well. Keep these divine crystals. If the people of the heavenly demon religion come, use these divine crystals to support the teleportation formation. Jianqin passed half of the divine crystals to Xinjian before leaving the room. Afterwards, Jianqin found Shangguanmu, and the others. He left all the divine crystals on him to them before leaving the Tianyuan family silently. He searched for a path of retreat. The divine kingdom of Pingtian is connected to the divine kingdom of Qingyang. Once I pass through the divine kingdom of Qingyang, I'll reach the divine kingdom of Datian. Once I pass through the divine kingdom of Datian, I'll pass through a mountain range, and I'll reach the heavenly moon empire. Jianqin flew through the clouds as quickly as he could as he thought of a path of retreat. With the strength of the Empyrean demon cult, it'll be useless whether our Tianyuan clan retreats to the divine kingdom of Qingyang or the divine kingdom of Datian. It looks like only the heavenly moon empire can make the Empyrean demon cult fear us. My target this time is the heavenly moon empire. Jianqin immediately used the linear lightning release after making up his mind. He turned into a bolt of lightning and hurried off as quickly as he could. Before long, Jianqin left the divine kingdom of Pingtian and arrived in the divine kingdom of Qingyang. He chose a desolate mountain range with few people and cast down a teleportation formation in a hidden cave before continuing on his way. Ancestor of the Mo family, I'll be back for that item of mine very soon. Jianqin looked in the direction of the Mo family from afar, and killing intent flickered through his eyes. He turned into a streak of light and hurried off to the divine kingdom of Datian. Jianqin passed through the divine kingdom of Qingyang as quickly as he could as he hurried off. He passed by the foot of the Yin Mountains of Seven's Despair and entered the divine kingdom of Datian. He found another hidden place to cast down a teleportation formation before hurrying off to the Heavenly Moon Empire. Along the way, there were a few twists and turns. They were attacked several times by vicious beasts. There were also a few times when they directly charged into the formations set up by bandits. Some of the bandits were so powerful that they had even reached Lake God. However, these twists and turns were nothing with Jianshen's current strength. He dealt with them with a raise of his hand. However, if it were a god, they would probably die. Finally, 10 days after Jianshen left the Tianyuan family, he entered the territory of the Heavenly Moon Empire. He did not enter any cities either. He cast down a final teleportation formation in the desolate mountain range. The moment the final teleportation formation was cast down, Jianshen finally let out a sigh of relief. The Tianyuan family's path of retreat had finally been paved. Chapter 1874. After 2 teleportations, Jianshen appeared in the divine kingdom of Qingyang. Only when the bright white light from the teleportation formation had completely faded away did he step out of the teleportation formation, leaving the cave where the teleportation formation was hidden. Jianshen shot into the sky like a cannonball from the cave. He appeared 10,000 meters above the ground in a single instant, standing proudly above the clouds. A map appeared in his hand. After finding the location of the Mo family, he directly made his way over. The Tianyuan family faced the threat of the heavenly demon religion. Jianshen needed to increase his strength as much as he could at a time like this. If he wanted to break through with his chaotic body, the amount of energy required was just too shocking. It was impossible for him to break through without sufficient resources. Although he had made some slight progress with the laws of the sword in the library, breaking through to the major achievement of sword spirit was still not something he could achieve in a short amount of time. The only thing left that could be used to increase his strength was the damaged god's armor. Although the god artifact was heavily damaged, it was still a god artifact after all. If he wore it, it would increase his defenses slightly. As Jianshen made his way to the Mo family, a huge city stood silently on the scarlet ground in the distant divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons. It was enveloped by layers of powerful formations, giving off extremely powerful pulses of energy. The city walls were filled with armored soldiers. There were also a few people of different ages, mixed in with them in luxurious robes. However, without exception, all of them had rather haggard faces and were stained with traces of blood. There were even some people who were completely soaked in blood. It was impossible to tell whether it was the blood of others or their own. This was the imperial capital of the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons. At the same time, it was the only symbol of the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons. Over the years of war, the imperial capital of the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons had been reduced to ruins. Even with the protection of powerful divine king level formations, there were still many places that were covered in thick cracks. The land around the royal capital was dyed red with blood, forming rivers that flowed on the ground. Countless corpses were piled up like mountains, and the air was filled with a thick smell of blood. This was because 4 hours ago, the final resistance of the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons had once again erupted in an intense battle with the 9th army of the heavenly demon religion. We can't hold on much longer. 3 streaks of light hovered in the air above the imperial capital of the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons. They shone like the sun, and a tremendous presence radiated from them. However, this aura was clearly a little strong on the outside, but weak on the inside. These were the strongest forces in the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons. 3 divine king level experts. No reinforcements, no hope. The heavens want to destroy my divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons. The heavenly demon religion is brimming with ambition. Their methods are bloody and cruel. They have already destroyed many divine kingdoms in the past few years. Why hasn't the empire stepped in? The 3 divine king hovered in the air as they spoke with deep voices. Their figures were enveloped by dazzling light, and the laws of the world revolved around them, blurring their figures. It was impossible to see them clearly. 5 kilometers away from the three of them, the sky was gloomy. Black clouds covered the sky as a demonic aura permeated the surroundings. A group of soldiers in black armor stood coldly on the ground. Even though there were not many of them, they pressured the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons to the point of suffocating. They were the 9th army of the heavenly demon religion. Even though the 9th army only had 100,000 people, it was just this 100,000 people that were enough to sweep through an army of 10 million from any divine kingdom. The commander of the 9th army, Yen Wuming, stood in the air with his arms crossed in front of the heavenly demon religion. He also wore armor, and his cape fluttered wildly in the fierce wind. Divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons, we've already found a way to destroy your formations. When we attack next time, I'll wipe you out in a single stroke. Let's go. Yen Wuming sneered. Demonic aura surged from him, and he remained composed as he faced the 3 divine king. He did not treat them with any importance at all. The 9th army of the heavenly demon religion retreated and set up camp 100 kilometers away. Yen Wuming gathered his generals in the commander's tent to discuss the battle. Suddenly, an illusory figure of a handsome young man wearing a white robe appeared out of thin air in the commander's tent. Yen Wuming, it's been so many days. Have you caught that person called Ling Hogong? As soon as the illusionary young man appeared, he stared at Yen Wuming coldly as if he was judging him. His voice was sinister. Yen Wuming's face sank. He slammed the table and stood up, calling out mercilessly, "Protector Tseng, since when do I need to report to you? Who do you think you are? How dare you speak to me like that? Do you want me to destroy your soul with a single slap?" The young man sneered. "Yen Wuming, there's obviously no need for you to report to me. However, there's a piece of news that I think I should tell you. Stop being so wishy-washy. If you have something to say, spit it out. Once you're done, piss off." Yen Wuming was extremely irritable. The overgod generals gathered in the tent all shrunk their necks. They did not even dare to breathe too loudly in the argument between Yen Wuming and Protector Tseng, let alone make a sound. Vice Leader Huai and has already emerged from seclusion. He has personally asked about this matter. Yen Wuming, don't blame me for not warning you. If you don't handle this matter properly, once the Vice sect master blames you, you won't be able to bear the consequences. Protector Zhang sneered. After throwing down those words, he disappeared. Yen Wuming's face suddenly became stern after Protector Tseng's departure. He glanced below and said in a rough voice, "Lu Shan has been gone for so long, so why hasn't he returned? Can't he even deal with a mere early overgod?" The generals below all looked at one another. In the past few days, their 9th army had been fighting against the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons, so they naturally did not receive the news that Lu Shan and the other 2 overgods had died. Report. Suddenly, a messenger ran in and knelt down on one knee. He said politely, "Commander, we've just received news that Commander Lu Shan and his 2 lieutenants have been killed by Jianqin in the divine kingdom of Pingtian." "What? Lu Shan has been killed? How dare you?" Yen Wuming stood up. His presence surged as killing intent surged. He said coldly, "Who is this Jianqin? He's someone who dares to kill my people." "Commander, this is all the information regarding Jianqin." The messenger passed a jade slip to Yen Wuming. Yen Wuming frowned after reading through the contents of the jade slip. He said sternly, "This Jianqin really does have some ability. It's extremely likely that he has the support of a primordial realm expert, and he's connected to a peak clan whose strength is unknown. No wonder he's bold enough to oppose our heavenly demon religion. But so what if that's the case? My Empyrean demon cult doesn't fear him. Just how great is his background? I, Yen Wuming, will make him pay with his life for killing my people." Suddenly, Yen Wuming glared at all the generals present. He said, Are there any late over-gods who are willing to go to the divine kingdom of Pingtian and bring me the heads of Jianqin and Ling Hogong?" The over-god generals looked at one another. None of them accepted the mission. A while later, an over-god general stood up and said, "Commander, the attack on the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons has reached a critical moment. If we send a late over-god to the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons now, it will definitely prolong the battle and weaken the strength of our army. If the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons launches a final counterattack at a time like this and attacks us, we will probably suffer heavy losses. Moreover, I'm guessing that this person called Jianqin is bold enough to kill people from our heavenly demon religion in the divine kingdom of Pingtian, so maybe he has the support of the imperial family. If he really does have the support of the imperial family, we'll just be sending 1 or 2 late over-gods to their deaths for nothing. In my opinion, why don't we go to the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons after we deal with it first?" Yan Wuming lowered his head and thought for a while and said, "Allow it. In 7 days, we will launch an all-out attack on the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons. Once we deal with the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons, we will immediately march into the divine kingdom of Pingtian. P.S. You can follow Xiaoyao's public WeChat account. Search for his WeChat account, Xinxing Xiaoyao 110, and you'll be able to listen to the author's public WeChat account. The pinyin is Xinxing Xiaoyao's pseudonym and a police number. Chapter 1875. Yes, sir. All the over-god generals gathered in Yan Wuming's tent obeyed his orders. All of them were excited as their battle intent surged. They were extremely eager for battle. Divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons, I'll give you 7 days to catch your breath. After 7 days, I'd like to see just what power you have left to stop my attacks." Yan Wuming sat on the commander's seat emotionlessly. Killing intent filled his eyes as they shone with a bloodthirsty light. "After destroying the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons, I'll personally go to the divine kingdom of Pingtian. I can't just let this matter slide that the people of my 9th army died in the divine kingdom of Pingtian." On a plain far away from the divine kingdom of Three Cauldrons on the vast southern region of the Cloud Plain, the sky was filled with endless darkness. No sunlight could be seen at all while the ground was barren. It was barren and lifeless. From afar, it was filled with a deathly stillness. In the depths of this land that never saw the light of day, as if it had fallen into eternal darkness, there was a majestic ancient castle quietly standing there. The ancient castle was extremely huge. It was dark red all over, as if it had been drenched in blood. Before they even got close, they could already smell the thick scent of blood. There was also the scent of death that permeated the air. The castle was the headquarters of the branch of the heavenly demon religion on the Cloud Plain. Even though the surroundings of the castle were desolate and there were no guards, no one dared to approach it as it stood there. Even god kings were not bold enough to get within 1,000 kilometers of the castle. Even primordial realm experts, who had surpassed God King and only existed in legends to many people in the saints' world, did not dare to approach within 100 kilometers of the ancient castle. Even to primordial realm experts, the area within 100 kilometers of the ancient castle was a forbidden zone. At this moment, 3 figures sat in the air on the highest floor of the dark red castle. Demonic aura revolved around them, such that only their figures could be seen vaguely. The demonic aura from the 3 of them was so powerful that it was enough to shake up the surroundings. Their presences were so terrifying that even the expressions of divine king experts would change. It was as if any of the 3 of them contained a terrifying power that could destroy the world within their tiny bodies. Huayan, you've finally come out of seclusion. You've been in seclusion for so long. It looks like your injuries have already healed. One of the 3 figures, shrouded in monstrous demonic chi, spoke. His tone was calm and did not contain the slightest emotion. However, it was not difficult to tell from the aged voice that this person was an old man. "Ha ha ha! A mighty infinite prime has actually been injured to such a state by a mere divine king. He's only recovered after spending so much time in seclusion. Huayan, just this point alone is enough for your name to be passed down through the ages. The second person, shrouded in demonic qi, spoke. Her voice was clear and melodious. This person was actually a woman, but her tone was filled with mockery. Humph, Ihuaiwa, if you were to fight against Duanmu, you would be even weaker than me. You might even be killed by him. The third person, shrouded in demonic qi, growled. His voice was filled with undisguised fury. Ihuaiwa giggled. Huayan, do you think I'm as stupid as you? Even dealing with a mere divine king is so difficult. If I were to take action, killing a mere Duanmu would be as easy as flipping my hand. You want to deal with Duanmu with that little trick of yours? Huayan sneered. His voice was filled with disdain. Although Duanmu didn't make it onto the divine king's throne, that's only because he didn't want to. With his strength, it's enough for him to make it into the top 100 of the divine king's throne. Ihuaiwa, it's not that I'm looking down on you, but it's not certain who will emerge victorious if you face off against Duanmu with your strength. The divine king's throne recorded the most powerful divine kings in the saints' world. They were ranked according to their strength. Without a doubt, every single expert who made it onto the divine king's throne, regardless of their ranking, was an extremely powerful existence. Any single one of them could reign supreme in the divine king's throne and shake up the world. It was rumored that all the people who made it onto the top 100 of the divine king's throne possessed the power to take on primordial realm experts. Of course, primordial realm experts were naturally the weaker ones. As for the people who made it onto the top 10 of the divine king's throne, they even possessed the strength to directly kill primordial realm experts. I heard as soon as I emerged that Kid Duanmu already has a successor. Huayan, since you praised Duanmu so much, it seems that this sect should kindly remind you. Don't end up dying at the hands of Duanmu's successor instead of dying at Duanmu's hands. Huaiwa chuckled. Enough. Stop arguing, an old voice rang out. The old man, shrouded in demonic aura, said, Ihuaiwa, Huayan, you must have received the Grand Elder's orders. Ihuaiwa and Huai and immediately fell silent when the Grand Elder was mentioned. The Grand Elder has ordered us to gather soul force faster. It looks like we need to mobilize all 9 armies, Huayan said sternly. If we do that, we'll definitely raise the attention of all the large organizations on the Cloud Plain. The empires won't just stand by and watch. They'll definitely try to stop us, Ihuaiwa said sternly. Since the Grand Elder has passed down this order, it must be the Great Elder's intentions. There's no need for us to worry. We just need to carry out the mission, pass down the orders. The 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th armies will all be mobilized. They'll attack in 3 different directions. Order all the protectors to emerge from seclusion and await orders at the headquarters. The divine kingdom of Qingyang was equivalent to the divine kingdom of Pingtian in terms of national strength. They both possessed 2 divine kings, but the divine kingdom of Qingyang had existed for even longer than the divine kingdom of Pingtian. The divine kingdom of Pingtian had only been established for several 100,000 years, while the divine kingdom of Qingyang had existed for over 1,000,000 years. The divine kingdom of Qingyang had borrowed the 49 great plains and 81 great planets of the saints' world. As a result, they had established 49 provinces and 81 royal cities in their territory. They hoped to borrow the fortune of the saints' world so that the divine kingdom of Qingyang would prosper. The Blue River province was one of the 49 provinces of the divine kingdom of Qingyang. At the same time, it was one of the 5 great provincial cities of the divine kingdom of Qingyang. Just like the 6 great provinces of the divine kingdom of Pingtian, the 5 provincial cities all possessed over gods. The Blue River province was the territory of the Mo family. The Mo family was the absolute ruler of the Blue River province. Suddenly, an extremely powerful aura spread out and enveloped the entire Blue River County. At the same time, a resplendent strand of sword chi shone with dazzling light. It shot out from the thick clouds in the sky like a hot knife through butter, entering the Blue River province with lightning speed. Boom! A deafening boom immediately rang out in the capital of the Blue River province. The entire city shook violently. The protective formation of the Blue River province appeared as soon as possible, enveloping the entire city. However, the protective formation shattered as soon as it appeared. Under the devastating ripples of energy, countless structures in the city collapsed. Thick cracks appeared on the streets. "Ancestor of the MO family, get your ass out here!" A cold voice rang out in the sky, reverberating through the city. Above the Blue River County, a young man in white robes coldly looked down at the county city below him. He broke through the clouds and slowly descended from the sky. Chapter 1876. The sudden change shocked all the people in the Blue River province. At that moment, all the people in the provincial city stopped what they were doing without any exception. They either stood on the streets or on the roofs of buildings as they stared at the sky. They all stared at Genshin in the sky as shock and surprise filled their faces. Who is this person? He came to find the ancestor of the MO family as soon as he arrived. It looks like he's probably an enemy of the MO family. The formation protecting the Blue River County has already reached the level of an overgod. Even an overgod would need to expend some effort to break through it. However, such a powerful formation has been broken through so easily in the hands of the senior. This senior is so powerful, overgod. This person must have reached the level of overgods, and he's an expert even among overgods. Heavens, I'm actually so close to becoming an overgod. The more powerful he is, the better. The MO family is tyrannical in the Blue River province. A few of their wastrels steal women from the provincial city all day long. Who knows how many women they've sullied in the past few years. I hope this senior's appearance can destroy the MO family. In the Blue River County, countless people were whispering to each other. Everyone kept their voices very low, and some of them even used telepathy to communicate. Everyone in the MO family had already gathered together. They all stared at the sky sternly. Many of them were pale, and they were covered in blood. Clearly they were injured. Not only had the sword chi from before destroyed the protective formations of the MO family, but the powerful ripples of energy had also injured many clansmen. Even the formations around the Blue River province had shattered loudly from the sword chi. The terrifying sword chi had left an unerasable shadow in the hearts of the people of the MO family. Many of them felt uneasy, and their gazes towards Genshin were filled with fear and shock. "Genshin, you finally come. The old man has been waiting for you for a very long time." At this moment, an old voice boomed out from the MO family. It was composed, and it was no weaker than Genshin's. A black-robed old man had silently appeared above the MO family. He was emotionless and calm. His black robes fluttered without any wind as the powerful presence of a mid-over god radiated from him without holding back at all. Other than Genshin, no one could clearly see when this old man had appeared. "Ancestor of the MO family, I have no grievances with you, but you should have never, ever taken away what belongs to me." Genshin stood in the air with his arms crossed. He stared at the old man calmly and said expressionlessly, "Are you going to hand over that item yourself, or do I have to take it myself?" The ancestor of the MO family laughed aloud. "Genshin, old man has indeed underestimated you. I never thought that your strength would reach such a level in just a few decades. But so what if you are stronger than the old man? Strength doesn't mean you can defeat the old man. You're dreaming if you want that item. That item no longer belongs to you, Genshin. It belongs to the old man now. If you have the ability, then come and take it." The ancestor of the MO family was extremely composed. He was fearless. Even when he learnt that Genshin was a late overgod, he showed no fear at all. "If that's the case, let me see just what kind of trump cards a mid-overgod like you has that makes you so confident Jianchen's eyes turned cold, and the startling rainbow sword appeared in his hand in a single moment. He directly stabbed towards the ancestor of the Mo family. The strike was as swift as the wind and as fast as lightning. It shone brightly, engulfing the ancestor of the Mo family in a single instant. The ancestor of the Mo family was no longer able to maintain his composure from before when he sensed the terrifying might in the strike. He became extremely stern. In his eyes, Jianchen's simple strike contained extremely profound mysteries of laws. The strike seemed to sever the laws and sever space, causing all the laws in the world to fall silent. Only the way of the sword stood out. This sword had locked onto his aura and sealed off the space around him, making it impossible for him to dodge or evade. How has he become so powerful? Is he the reincarnation of some great figure? The ancestor of the Mo family's heart sank. In his eyes, even if Jianchen was a late overgod, he would still be undefeatable with the protection of the god artifact. However, only when Jianchen actually began to fight did he suddenly realize that he had still underestimated Jianchen. The ancestor of the Mo family bellowed out. His body immediately shone with a dense light. It was multicolored and extremely enchanting. A suit of armor appeared on his body, covering his entire body. Only his eyes were exposed. Boom! With a deafening rumble, Jianchen's startling rainbow sword shone brightly as soon as the ancestor of the Mo family donned his armor. It landed on his body with devastating might. The strike was extraordinarily powerful. It had completely reached the level of late overgods. Naturally, the ancestor of the Mo family was unable to block it with his strength as a mid-overgod. He was blown far away, like a cannonball. Several kilometers away, the ancestor of the Mo family stabilized himself with great difficulty. He only felt his organs churn as they were shaken up. However, he was not injured at all. The armor had completely blocked the power of Jianchen's strike. How is this possible? In the distance, Jianchen naturally saw the armor on the ancestor of the Mo family as well. His eyes suddenly narrowed to the size of a needle. He naturally recognized the armor with a single glance. It was the damaged god artifact that the ancestor of the Mo family had taken from him in the past. To his disbelief, the ancestor of the Mo family had actually repaired the damaged god artifact. Even though only the surface had been repaired and the god artifact had not completely recovered, it was still enough to shock Jianchen. This was a god artifact, and its quality was quite high. It was so damaged that it was basically on the brink of being destroyed. Repairing it would naturally be extremely difficult. Even infinite primes would not necessarily be able to repair it, let alone an overgod. Heavens, the ancestor of the Mo family has been blown away in a single clash. Are my eyes deceiving me? Am I hallucinating? This person is so powerful. It's said that the ancestor of the Mo family is a mid-overgod, yet he can't even withstand a single blow from this person. The cultivators who had personally witnessed the ancestor of the Mo family being blown away by a single strike from Jianchen all cried out in the Blue River province. All of their faces were filled with shock and disbelief. In their eyes, the ancestor of the Mo family was a supreme existence. He was the absolute ruler of the Blue River province. He was so powerful that even with the entire divine kingdom of Qingyang in perspective, he ranked within the top 10. He was an existence that they could only look up to. Yet now, the great ancestor of the Mo family was actually unable to withstand a single blow from Jianchen. The great contrast shocked all the people in the Blue River province. In the distance, the ancestor of the Mo family's face that was covered by the god artifact immediately became cold. Powerful killing intent flickered through his eyes as he thought, since Jianchen knows that the god artifact has been repaired, I have to kill him today. Otherwise, if he spreads the news of the god artifact, I won't be able to keep it. With that, the ancestor of the Mo family did not hesitate at all. He turned around and fled into the distance. Jianchen, old man won't tangle with you today. With this item, The old man will be able to reach the level of the Divine King before long. Once the old man becomes the Divine King, I'll come for your head and wipe out your clan. The ancestor of the Mo family's voice rang out from afar, purposefully provoking Jianqin into pursuing him. Chapter 1877. The ancestor of the Mo family fled as quickly as he could. He seemed flustered, but he was actually extremely composed. A vicious light flickered through his eyes as heavy killing intent flowed out. Jianqin pursued him closely from behind. His entire body seemed to have become a huge streak of light. He moved extremely quickly, far faster than the ancestor of the Mo family. The distance between the two of them became tighter and tighter. Come, come. The old man has already cast down a killing formation in a secret place. The old man paid a huge price to cast it down. Even if you're a late overgod, it'll be difficult for you to break free once you're trapped in it. Coupled with the fact that the old man is attacking from outside, Jianqin, you're dead for sure. The ancestor of the Mo family sneered. The ancestor of the Mo family sneered inside. He was extremely excited and exhilarated. Once Jianqin died, no one would know the secret of his god artifact. He did not worry about the people from the Blue River province at all, as even some overgods did not recognize god artifacts, let alone them. A powerful sword intent appeared from behind, and the ancestor of the Mo family was immediately enveloped by a streak of light. Jianqin had already caught up. He swung the startling rainbow sword and erupted with powerful sword chi towards the ancestor of the Mo family. Boom! With the protection of the god artifact, the ancestor of the Mo family was fearless. He did not dodge at all, completely relying on the might of the god artifact to endure the attacks. When the sword chi struck him, he was not injured at all. When the sword did not injure him at all, the violent shockwaves of energy had instead propelled him forward even faster. The ancestor of the Mo family's organs churned as they were shaken up. Jianqin's attacks were unable to destroy the god artifact, but every time his sword chi struck the god artifact, a great force would appear. Clearly, the god artifact that had only repaired the surface was unable to remove the force, so the force directly passed through the armor and into the ancestor of the Mo family. The two of them, one chasing and the other fleeing, quickly traversed millions of miles of mountains and rivers. They flashed past several counties and the sky above the royal city, alarming countless people. The ancestor of the Mo family had already endured Jianqin's attacks over a dozen times. Every single attack would shake up his organs. Even though the ancestor of the Mo family remained unscathed after the attacks, it was still extremely painful. Finally, the ancestor of the Mo family and Jianqin arrived in a desolate mountain range. Earth-fire god-killing formation. The ancestor of the Mo family stopped fleeing. He formed seals with his hands and suddenly called out. At that moment, powerful pulses of energy erupted from countless mountains in the barren mountains. A huge formation appeared, enveloping the entire barren mountain. Endless flames erupted from the ground, filling up the space there. The world Jianqin saw had completely turned fiery red. A terrifying temperature spread between heaven and earth, as if even the air was burning. The ground below him was an endless sea of fire, while a cloud of fire drifted in the sky above him. Jianqin, you will definitely die today. Ha ha ha. The ancestor of the Mo family laughed arrogantly in the surroundings. Victory was already within his grasp. Jianqin hovered in the air calmly. He did not move at all. The flames in the surroundings surged over with terrifying heat, but they were unable to approach him at all. If this was a killing formation on the level of a divine king, I really wouldn't have been able to escape today. It's a pity that your formation is only on the level of an overgod. Jianqin shook his head gently. It's indeed very difficult to kill you with just this formation. But what if the old man is involved? This formation was personally cast down by the old man. The old man knows this formation like the back of his hand, so he can move through it as he pleases. All he needs to do is find the right time to launch a sneak attack on you. However, you won't be able to harm the old man at all. The ancestor of the Mo family's voice echoed through the formation, coming from all directions. It was impossible to find where he was hiding from his voice, as he said that the earth and fire god-slaying formation suddenly began to operate. The fire-red world shook violently. The sea of fire rose up as flames surged into the sky. An extremely huge, fire-red pillar of light shot up from the ground, charging towards Genshin as a huge, ferocious beast. It kicked up flames along the way, causing the space there to distort. These were terrifying flames that posed a great threat to late overgods. However, with Genshin's battle prowess, even among late overgods, he stood at the very peak. The threat of an attack like this had already weakened. He stabbed out, and the startling rainbow sword shone with resplendent light. It produced a huge strand of sword chi that was several meters long as it shot out with lightning speed. With a boom, the huge, ferocious beast of flames was directly dispersed by Genshin's strand of sword chi. As the two clashed, powerful ripples of energy surged out. They actually caused the entire formation to shake violently, causing it to become unstable. It was also at this moment that a black sword appeared silently behind Genshin. It stabbed towards the back of Genshin's head with lightning speed. Genshin's expression did not change. He sneered disdainfully. Without even turning around, he directly stabbed backwards. Ding! The tips of the two swords collided in an extremely pure manner. They parted as soon as they came in contact, and the armored ancestor of the Mo family appeared in the formation. However, the ancestor of the Mo family did not engage in a direct confrontation with Genshin. He immediately withdrew his sword and retreated. In the blink of an eye, he vanished from the formation again. Basically, the moment the ancestor of the Mo family vanished, Genshin appeared there. He swung his sword a few times in a row. Under the eruption of the powerful power of the laws of the sword, the entire formation shook. However, the ancestor of the Mo family did not appear. Genshin, old man may not be able to defeat you in a direct confrontation, but with this killing formation, it's not difficult to kill you. As long as the killing formation is in operation, you'll have to endure the attacks from the killing formation at all times. Old man, I'd like to see just how long you can last. The ancestor of the Mo family laughed aloud from within the formation. Your formation is a little too weak, Genshin murmured to himself. Suddenly his presence changed. An extremely powerful sword chi surged out from his body. Endless power of the laws of the sword appeared in the air and gathered towards him. Daluo sword! Genshin called out. He formed a seal with his hand, and a strand of golden sword chi condensed above his head. It shot out with lightning speed as a streak of golden light. Boom! The golden sword chi struck the formation with devastating power. With a great boom, the earth and fire god-slaying formation, cast down by the ancestor of the Mo family, shook even more violently. When Genshin struck out, the ancestor of the Mo family found an opportunity to launch a sneak attack as well, but they were all blocked by Genshin. A few strands of sword chi landed on the ancestor of the Mo family. However, due to the protection of the armor, Genshin's attacks were unable to harm the ancestor of the Mo family at all. They only caused the ancestor of the Mo family to tremble slightly. Chapter 1878. Genshin no longer paid any attention to the ancestor of the Mo family. He focused on getting through the formation. He knew that it would be very difficult for him to kill the ancestor of the Mo family if he did not get through the formation. Golden sword chi constantly condensed above Genshin's head. Every single strand of sword chi possessed terrifying pulses of energy that could devastate the world. In a short amount of time, Genshin used the Daluo sword several times, causing the formation to tremble constantly. Before the attacks from the formation could even approach Genshin, They were easily dispersed by the Daluo sword. Not only did Jianchen suppress the formation with his great strength, but he also blocked the sneak attacks from the ancestor of the Mo family with ease. Boom! 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 Deafening booms erupted within the formation. Under Jianchen's ferocious attacks, the formation that could trap late over gods became more and more fragile. The space within the formation distorted violently, and slivers of light appeared in the fire-red world. This was light from the outside world. The terrifying might from Jianchen's full-powered attacks had almost ripped through the space within the formation. And this was because the ancestor of the Mo family had launched sneak attacks and constantly circled around the formation. Otherwise, if Jianchen focused on getting through the formation, it would not have taken him so long with his current strength. The formation is about to break through? How is that possible? Although it's very difficult for the formation I cast down to kill late overgods, it should be able to trap them for a few years. Coupled with the fact that I'm hiding in the shadows and the formation, killing late overgods will be a piece of cake. But not only does Jianchen have to deal with the attacks from the formation, but he also has to constantly launch sneak attacks from me. He should have no time to spare, so how is it possible for him to have extra power to get through the formation? Back then, Jianchen was clearly only an early overgod, and he was only a god at that. However, it's only been a few short decades, so how has he become so powerful? The ancestor of the Mo family was extremely shocked. As a matter of fact, he found it hard to believe that a person's strength could improve so quickly. In just a few short decades, such a huge leap had occurred. It had to be mentioned that he had spent over 100,000 years to go from early overgod to mid-overgod. No, Jianchen has to die. If he doesn't die, I won't be able to live in peace even if I obtain the god artifact. The ancestor of the Mo family became determined. A god artifact was worth risking his life for. His true body was hidden in the earthly fire god-killing formation. His arms danced in front of him as he unleashed his truth-tier battle skill. Amidst the surging demonic chi, a huge ghost figure suddenly appeared. Its eyes were blood-red, and it emitted a terrifying aura that made one's heart palpitate. Ghost God swallows the sky. The ancestor of the Mo family called out. The huge ghost figure hidden in the demonic chi suddenly opened its mouth at that moment. Suddenly, an extremely tremendous suction force appeared from the ghost figure's mouth. It seemed to be able to swallow the world, enveloping Jianchen. Jianchen's body immediately tensed up. Under the suction force, he was slowly sucked into the ghost figure's black, hole-like mouth. Linear lightning release. Jianchen's eyes turned cold. Not only did he not retreat in the face of the suction force from the ghost figure, but he instead formed a seal with his hand and turned into a bolt of lightning. He charged towards the ghost figure's huge mouth with unbelievable speed. With a flash of light, Jianchen had already entered the ghost figure's mouth. He tore through the demonic chi along the way and emerged from the back of the ghost figure's head. In the end, he collided with the earthly fire god-killing formation. The huge ghost figure came to a standstill. The terrifying suction force that seemed to be able to swallow the world vanished as well. However, in the head of this ghastly figure, threads of powerful silver-white sword chi seemed to have cut apart the ghastly figure's head. They flashed out from the inside, becoming stronger and more glaring until they drowned the ghastly figure's entire head. Finally, with a loud bang, the enormous, ghastly figure exploded. Monstrous demonic chi, mixed with scattered sword chi, shot out in all directions. It was also at this moment that Jianchen slammed into the formation as a bolt of lightning. The formation that had already been on the verge of shattering from Jianchen's attacks finally reached its limit after the shockwave from the ghost figure's explosion and the linear lightning release. The entire formation collapsed in a single moment. As soon as the spirit array was broken, the world regained its clarity. However, the desolate mountain under his feet had now become a complete mess. Many mountains had collapsed, and a series of thick cracks had appeared on the ground. The ancestor of the Mo family hovered near Jianchen as he stared at Jianchen in a daze. He had never thought that the earthly fire, god-killing formation that he had cast down after paying such a great price would be destroyed so easily by Jianchen. It was a powerful killing formation that could trap late over gods for several years. Jianchen locked onto the ancestor of the Mo family. Killing intent surged from him as he formed a seal with his hand. He used the Daluo sword and swung it towards the ancestor's head without any hesitation. Jianchen, you can't do anything to old man. The ancestor of the Mo family called out. Powerful demonic aura erupted from his body as the laws of the world interwove before him. He swung his sword as hard as he could. However, without the assistance of the formation, it was impossible for him to be Jianchen's opponent with his strength. Not only did his full-powered attack fail to block the Daluo sword, but it even pierced his head. Bang! With a thud, the ancestor of the Mo family was blown far away. Even though he was unscathed under the protection of the god artifact, he still felt dizzy from the impact. He saw stars as the entire world spun around him. Jianchen pursued him. He swung the startling rainbow sword in his right hand as hard as he could as he formed a seal with his left hand. He used the Daluo sword again to attack the ancestor's head. He had possessed the god artifact for many years, so he understood it extremely well. Although external forces would not be able to destroy the god artifact, the powerful vibrations would still pass through the armor to the wearer. The ancestor of the Mo family was protected by the god artifact. Not a single part of his body was exposed. Even his eyes that were exposed were protected by a membrane. As a result, Jianchen could only use the powerful vibrations to pass through the armor to kill the ancestor of the Mo family. Boom! Boom! The ancestor of the Mo family felt like his head was about to explode after receiving 2 heavy attacks from Jianchen. His vision darkened as he felt like his skull was about to shatter. The vibrations that passed through the god artifact were just too powerful. He could endure it if it was just once or twice, but if this continued, his head would become deformed even if it was made of steel. Jianchen's attacks became more and more intense. He used the Daluo sword chi, the Tai sword technique, and the linear lightning release one after another. Like a storm, all of his attacks landed on the ancestor of the Mo family's head. The ancestor of the Mo family had completely lost the ability to fight back. He could only hold on with the powerful defense of the god artifact. Oh no, the god artifact isn't as powerful as I imagined it to be. If this continues, my head will definitely be shattered by Jianchen. I can't stay here. I have to run. The ancestor of the Mo family thought quickly and made a decision. He took out a teleportation formation disk from his space ring and activated it as quickly as possible. However, a strand of sword chi cleaved the teleportation formation disk in half, cutting off any hope of escape. Afterwards, Jianchen clenched his left hand into a fist. He pushed the strength of the chaotic body to the limit. Wrapped in chaotic force, he struck the ancestor of the Mo family's head like a huge hammer. The punch was extremely powerful. Cracks appeared on the ancestor of the Mo family's head that was hidden within the god artifact. He bled from all his orifices. It was a horrible sight. Stop! Jianchen, the old man will return the god artifact to you. Let go of the old man. The ancestor of the Mo family cried out. He began to beg for mercy. He had no chance of escaping. He could not activate the teleportation formation disk in time, and he was not as fast as Jianchen. Moreover, his soul was injured. If this continued, he would not be able to escape death. Chapter 1879. Blood flowed from the helmet of the god artifact. The ancestor of the Mo family's eyes had lost their luster. It was even possible to clearly see that a few cracks had appeared on his eyeballs as they constantly bled. The ancestor of the Mo family fell powerlessly from the sky, smashing into the ground below. With a heavy thud, a huge crater appeared in the ground as dust filled the air. Jianqin stowed the startling rainbow, soared away. The surging presence on him gradually vanished as well. He arrived before the crater the ancestor of the Mo family had created. When he stood there, the dust in the air immediately dispersed. Under the control of an invisible force, the ancestor of the Mo family slowly floated up from the crater. Blood constantly flowed from the god artifact. Jianqin removed the god artifact from the ancestor of the Mo family's corpse. Only now did he finally see the ancestor's head. His entire head had been reduced to pieces, red and white matter mixed together, giving off an indescribable sense of disgust. Apart from his head, even his upper body was a mess of flesh and blood. He did not have a body as tough as Jianqin's, so even his body had almost been shattered. Fortunately, the space ring on the ancestor of the Mo family's finger was not destroyed. However, it was covered in tiny web-like cracks. The space ring was on the brink of collapsing now. This space ring can shatter at any time. I need to move the items out as soon as possible. Without any hesitation, Jianqin immediately moved all the items from the space ring into his own space ring. However, to his surprise, he discovered quite a few high-grade divine crystals in the ancestor's space ring. There were close to 10 cubic meters in total. Moreover, there were a few scattered mid-grade divine crystals. As mid-grade divine crystals were not very useful for the cultivation of over-gods, the ancestor of the Mo family only had a few thousand mid-grade divine crystals in his space ring. Every single one was only the size of a finger. Jianqin also discovered a few cultivation methods and battle skills in the space ring. However, they were all demonic cultivation methods. They were far more evil than the Empyrean demon arts that Houston practiced. Jianqin frowned when he saw them. In the end, Jianqin destroyed all the cultivation methods and battle skills. They were just too vicious. As for the various materials and heavenly resources, they were not of particularly high quality. Jianqin only glanced through them roughly before stowing them away in his space ring. Although these things are basically useless to me, I can leave them for the Tianyuan family. Whether it's heavenly resources or materials, they're all valuable to the elders of the clan. Jianqin thought. Suddenly, Jianqin let out a soft cry of surprise. He discovered a black box in the space ring. It lay in an inconspicuous corner, quietly, enveloped by a formation. Jianqin took out the black box and studied it carefully before breaking through the formation. Suddenly, a cold presence radiated from the black box. At that moment, Jianqin seemed to hear the howls and shrieks of countless vengeful spirits. It was an extremely miserable sound. Jianqin frowned, and he became rather stern. He slowly opened the black box, and immediately a dense, black mist surged out from the box, enveloping Jianqin. A gleam of light shone through Jianqin's eyes. The dense, black mist was unable to obstruct his vision at all. His gaze pierced through the mist, and he could clearly see a palm-sized flag lying in the black box. When Jianqin's gaze landed on the flag, various chaotic noises rang out in his head. He heard the howls of ghosts, the pleas of women, and the cries of endless pain. In his mind, a scene appeared. The scene was filled with ferocious and terrifying ghosts. Some were delicate and pitiful, and some were filled with endless evil. They made one's hair stand on end. There were so many of them that they covered the sky and covered the sun. It was like hell on earth. Collect the souls of mortals and assist me in refining a demon artifact. I'll bestow upon you the power of fortune and allow you to reach the peak. It was also at this moment that an obscure voice rang out in Jianqin's head. The voice possessed a mysterious charm, and it was filled with bewitchment. It actually made Jianqin's eyes blur as if he had lost himself. The obscure voice seemed to become the voice of the world in Jianqin's sea of consciousness. It represented the will of the world and was irresistible. It reverberated through Jianqin's sea of consciousness, affecting Jianqin's mind. It was as if the voice wanted to use this method to forcefully implant its will into Jianshin's mind, influencing Jianshin's thoughts. However, Jianshin's soul was different. It was a combination of a fighter and a radiant Saint Master. It had undergone a fundamental transformation, causing his soul to mutate. It was different from ordinary people, and it possessed martial soul force. According to Fairy Haoyue, martial soul force was as rare as phoenix feathers, even with the entire saint's world in perspective. There were truly only a handful of them. The confusion in Jianshin's eyes only lasted for a few seconds before they cleared up. However, the demonic voice that wanted to implant its will in Jianshin's sea of consciousness was completely unaware. It continued to speak like a machine, telling Jianshin the method to collect souls. Killing intent immediately surged in Jianshin's heart when he heard that. He said coldly, "What a vicious method. It actually wants a woman born on an Een day and month to become a seed. On the day of the Een day and month, it also wants a man born on an Een day and month to impregnate her. When the baby is about to be born, it chooses an Een day and month to cruelly kill the mother and child before using such a vicious method to extract their souls. It's all for the sake of refining a demon artifact." Jianshin looked at the black banner again. He sensed the ghosts that were as dense as a black cloud. Sorrow filled his heart. There were already several 100,000 ghosts in there. Every single one of them had been pregnant when they were alive. They were mortal women who had not started cultivating, and their babies were about to be born. What a vicious demon! Just how many innocent mortals would he kill to refine a demon artifact? Since the ancestor of the Mo family obtained the banner, many of the hundreds of thousands of ghosts must have come from him. The ancestor of the Mo family deserved to die, Jianshin said coldly. Mortals were different from fighters. Once fighters began cultivating, it was unavoidable for their hands to be stained with blood in their pursuit of strength. In reality, whether it was the Tianyuan continent or the Saint's world, every single expert had basically made it through mountains of corpses and seas of blood. However, they had become experts through countless corpses. As a result, the deaths of fighters were not worthy of sympathy. However, mortals were different. Their lives were short, so they should enjoy their short lives. Chapter 1880. Many people in the provincial city of the Blue River province were still discussing how the Mo family had been attacked by a powerful enemy and how the ancestor of the Mo family had fled in defeat. Many of them were excited. They all hoped that the Mo family could be wiped out just like that. Clearly, the Mo family did not have a good reputation in the Blue River province. They were not popular. Many people hated the Mo family to the core already, but they could do nothing about the Mo family's great strength. Now that they saw a powerful over-god fight the ancestor of the Mo family, these people were naturally especially excited. They were all eager to see what would happen. They were eager for the ancestor of the Mo family to be directly slain. Without an over-god, the Mo family would not be able to exist for too long in the Blue River province. At this moment, a streak of light flickered. Many gods in the Blue River province failed to sense it, and the streak of light flew into the Blue River province with lightning speed. In the end, it hovered above the Mo family. Jianshin returned to the Blue River province with the ancestor of the Mo family's corpse. He stared at the panicking people below coldly. There was no pity in his eyes at all. He directly tossed the ancestor's corpse down. "Aye, it's the ancestor. Impossible, this is impossible. How could the ancestor?" When the people of the Mo family saw the headless corpse, their eyes all widened. They were stunned as disbelief filled their faces. However, soon afterwards, cries rang out from the entire Mo family. Many people cried out sorrowfully. The ancestor of the Mo family had always been the pride of the Mo family. It was exactly because of his existence that the Mo family possessed such a supreme status in the Blue River province, where no one dared to offend them. Now that the ancestor of the Mo family was dead, everyone in the Mo family realized that the Mo family had collapsed. The glory that belonged to the Mo family was probably a thing of the past. At the same time, a few gods in the Blue River province saw the ancestor's corpse as well. They were all riled up, and they could not help but laugh wildly. They were filled with excitement. Once the Mo family lost an overgod, the powerful clans in the provincial city could destroy them if they worked together. Does your Mo family often capture women? Jianqin hovered in the air as he stared at the people from the Mo family coldly. The expressions of many people in the Mo family changed when they heard Jianqin's question. They felt an ill omen. Could it be that there was someone related to this person among the women that were captured by his family? The people of the Mo family all looked at one another. They all thought of the same thing, so no one dared to say anything. Senior, the Mo family does indeed often kidnap women. At the very least, I've personally witnessed over 100 women being taken away by the Mo family. Moreover, most of these women are only mortals, said a god outside the Mo family. Jianqin's eyes immediately turned cold when he heard that many of the women were mortals who had yet to cultivate. A heavy killing intent rose up from him as he glared at the people of the Mo family below. He said coldly, "Where are the mortal women that were taken away now?" "Aye, they've all been sent to the ancestor. Only an extremely small portion of them are not good enough for the ancestor, so they're still in the clan. However, none of them have a good ending. They're all dead." "Aye, Senior, I am Sun Shanggong. I am not a member of the Mo family. I am only an outsider who has been recruited by the Mo family. I have nothing to do with the Mo family. Please forgive me, Senior," said a god from the Mo family. His voice trembled as he begged for mercy, carefully. "Sun Shanggong, you coward. I've misjudged you. Sun Shanggong, although you're not a member of our Mo family, don't forget that you personally captured many of these women in order to curry favor with the ancestor. Sun Shanggong, you've defiled quite a few women." Many of the elders of the Mo family blamed Sun Shanggong. Suddenly, a tremendous pressure radiated from Jianqin, blotting out the surroundings. It made all the elders of the Mo family sink as if they were carrying a mountain. They immediately fell silent. "Let me ask you this. Do you know where the ancestor of the Mo family has hidden these women?" Jianqin glared at Sun Shanggong. "Once, when I sent a few mortal women over, I discovered that the ancestor had stored them all away in a spatial saint artifact. I'm guessing that the women are in a spatial saint artifact that the ancestor carries around with him." Sun Shanggong said everything he knew. In order to survive, he told Jianqin everything he knew. Jianqin immediately extended the senses of his soul into the space ring and checked all the saint artifacts he had obtained from the ancestor of the Mo family. Indeed, he discovered that there were quite a few people living in one of the saint artifacts. There were over 1,000 of them. They were all mortals. 80% of them were women, while the remaining 2% were young men. Among the women, there were many. Many of them were pregnant. As expected, the ancestor of the Mo family is already collecting the souls of mortals. I just wonder if the ancestor of the Mo family is responsible for all the souls in the banner. Jianqin became sorrowful as he looked at the women in the spatial saint artifact. The women were like livestock reared in the world of mortals, waiting to be slaughtered when they were ripe. "Senior, I've already told you everything you want to know. Please spare my life," Sun Shanggong pleaded once again from below. Jianqin withdrew the senses of his soul from the spatial saint artifact. Killing intent surged as he said coldly, "How can I spare you after doing such a heartless thing?" With that, Jianqin extended a finger. A strand of sword qi shot out from his finger, piercing Sun Shanggong's head and wiping out his soul. Many gods in the Mo family had already taken out teleportation formation discs in an attempt to flee. Some of the deities who did not possess spatial formation discs flew off as quickly as they could, fleeing in all directions. However, before an overgod, especially a peak overgod, these gods did not even have the time to activate the teleportation formation before Jianqin destroyed their formation discs. As for the deities of the Mo family, They were all stopped by the powerful clans of the Blue River Province or the foreign gods. The Mo family was not popular in the Blue River Province, and they had captured many women in the past few years. They were used to acting as they pleased, so they had obviously offended many people. Now that the ancestor of the Mo family was dead, they had lost all momentum. The people who resented the Mo family naturally took action without any hesitation, stopping all the people who fled from the Mo family. For a moment, booms constantly rang out in the Blue River Province. The sounds of battle rang out everywhere. Many gods from powerful clans pursued the people of the Mo family. Ha ha ha! To think that you'll have a day like this too, Mo family, many people laughed aloud in the Blue River Province. Some of them shed tears from their grievances now that they had been avenged. Don't even think about escaping. Jianchen said coldly to the gods of the Mo family. He heavily injured all of them and sealed up all their strength before tossing them into the spatial saint artifact of the ancestor of the Mo family. Chapter 1881. Without a doubt, all the elders of the Mo family had been sucked into Jianchen's spatial saint artifact. Without a doubt, the Mo family that had dominated the Blue River Province for so many years was officially destroyed. Only a few Origin realm experts and servants remained in the Mo family now, as well as a small number of deities who had not fled. They wanted to live and die with the clan. Jianchen ignored these people. He hovered in the air emotionlessly as he expanded the senses of his soul, carefully searching every inch of the Mo family. His senses even reached underground to search for people he had missed. Under his careful search, he really did find two gods in the depths of the Mo family. They were currently hiding in a secret room. Boom! Jianchen struck out again. He swung out with the startling rainbow sword. It was dazzling and resplendent, illuminating the world. He directly blasted open the ground in an extremely brutal manner, striking deep into the ground. With his strength as a late overgod, he forcefully created a tunnel that led to the depths of the earth. The two gods hiding underground seemed to sense that something was amiss. Without any hesitation, they immediately took out teleportation formation discs, wanting to use this opportunity to flee. However, a long sword pierced through the ceiling of the secret room. It turned into a ray of light and suddenly appeared at an unbelievable speed. It directly cut off their arms, cutting off their hopes of escaping. Soon after, the ceiling of the secret room collapsed, and a large amount of soil fell down. A straight passage that was 1,000 meters long appeared, leading to the outside world. The sunlight from outside shone in, bringing some light to the dark secret room. Don't even think about escaping, gods of the Mo family. Jianchen appeared in the secret room. After heavily injuring the two of them and sealing their strength, he tossed them into his spatial saint artifact as well. Jianchen was about to leave the secret room after capturing the two of them. However, his eyes suddenly narrowed at this moment, and he stared into the depths of the secret room. The secret room was extremely spacious. There were a few jade platforms the size of cushions in there. From the faint marks on them, he could tell that the jade platforms were used for cultivation. However, he discovered a large door behind the jade platforms. It was protected by layers of powerful overgod formations. The light in Jianchen's eyes flickered as he slowly made his way to the door. After a moment of hesitation, he smashed through the formations. Suddenly, the underground secret chamber rumbled incessantly. The entire Blue River County city above shook violently as if there was a great earthquake. Thick cracks appeared on the ground, alarming everyone in the county city. Before long, Jianchen smashed through the formations and directly entered through the door. In an instant, an extremely surging origin energy permeated the surroundings. The first thing that entered his eyes was the two divine crystals that had been piled up into a mountain. They gave off a dazzling glow, which was quite a bewildering sight. One of the two mountains of divine crystals was filled with low-grade divine crystals, while the other was filled with mid-grade divine crystals. There were extremely many of them. Aside from that, there were various treasures piled up in the surroundings. Not only were there cultivation methods and truth-tier battle skills, but there were even quite a few heavenly resources and various pills. This should be the treasury of the Mo family. Jianqin murmured to himself. Many organizations possessed their own treasury. It was impossible for a single person to possess all the wealth of a clan. This was because the items in the treasury were needed to maintain the clan's daily life. They would go in and out frequently, and they would be used very frequently. The ancestors of the clan basically spent all their time cultivating in seclusion. 100 years could pass in a blink of an eye, so why would they have the time to deal with these miscellaneous matters? As a result, basically all the items needed to maintain the clan were stored in the treasury, protected by powerful formations. They were guarded by the entire clan. There are probably over 100 million low-grade divine crystals. There are also several million mid-grade divine crystals. Jianchen walked around the 2 mountains of divine crystals before stowing them all away in his space ring. Although there were many divine crystals here, they were all low-grade and mid-grade divine crystals. If they were converted into high-grade divine crystals, there would only be 4 or 5 blocks. When Jianchen emerged from the treasury, the Mo family's treasury was completely empty. He had taken away all the items, regardless of whether they were useful or not. When Jianchen returned to the surface, he discovered that the entire Mo family had been surrounded. Over 20 gods of various ages had all concealed their presences as they stood to one side quietly. They all stared at the huge hole that led to the depths of the Mo family. "Greetings, Senior." "We are." The gods all bowed towards Jianchen when they saw Jianchen emerge. They all introduced themselves politely. Most of these people were the ancestors of the powerful clans in the Blue River province. Seeing how the Mo family had lost, all the powerful clans in the provincial city moved out to hunt down the remaining members of the Mo family. They did not want to spare a single person from the Mo family. There are also a few overgods who had come from other places. They either had grievances with the Mo family or could not stand the way the Mo family did things, so they joined in as well. "I'll leave the people of the Mo family to you, but don't kill the innocent," Jianchen said to the gods. "Yes, Senior." The 20 or so heavenly gods replied in unison. They were all very respectful. Jianchen left the Blue River province and returned to the Tianyuan family in the divine kingdom of Pingtian through the teleportation formation he had cast down. Afterwards, he immediately gathered all the members of the upper echelon of the Tianyuan family. "I've already prepared a path of retreat. If the heavenly demon religion invades, and we can't stop them, we'll immediately retreat through the teleportation formation. However, to ensure the safety of the teleportation formation, I will have trusted people watch over it. Unless the clan needs to retreat, no one is allowed to approach the teleportation formation," Jianchen said sternly as he sat on the patriarch's throne. "Of course," he said that completely for the gods of the saints' world to hear. Many people in the discussion hall secretly became relieved when they heard that there was a path of retreat. After dispersing, Jianchen gathered the people from the Tianyuan continent again. He took out all the items he had obtained from the treasury of the Mo family and let them choose what they needed. Xiongzhong and the others from the world of forsaken saints naturally did not fall behind. They also joined in the process of choosing treasures. "Jianchen, where did you get so many things from? Have you discovered another dwelling?" Shangguan Mu, or blinked as she became speechless when she saw all the items on the ground. Most of these items are for origin realm experts and deities. There aren't a lot of things that gods can use. Moreover, most of these cultivation methods lean towards demonic arts. In my opinion, Jianchen has probably ransacked the treasury of some demonic clan. Houston sat on the ground in his blood-red robes. His blood-red hair draped over his shoulders casually as he looked at the items on the ground and smiled. "Uncle Xiao is right. I have indeed ransacked the treasury of an over-god clan, Jianqin smiled. Afterwards, he took out the items he had obtained from the ancestor of the Mo family and said, "These items all came from that over-god. Take a look and see if there's anything you need. Once you're done, I'll distribute the rest. I don't need anything else. I'll take a few more mid-grade divine crystals. I just happen to need these things for my breakthrough," said Shangguan-Mu. Her enchanting eyes shone brightly, while her voice was like the music of immortals. "Let's use high-grade divine crystals instead. The origin energy in high-grade divine crystals is pure, so their effects are several times greater than mid-grade divine crystals. I just happen to have plenty of high-grade divine crystals right now." Jianqin looked at Shangguan-Mu, as a rare gentleness appeared in his eyes. Afterwards, he passed all the high-grade divine crystals on him to her. These high-grade divine crystals all came from the 3 over-gods of the heavenly demon religion and the ancestor of the Mo family. Even though she had given Shen Jian half of the high-grade divine crystals she had obtained from the 3 over-gods of the heavenly demon religion, there were over a dozen cubes remaining when the ancestor of the Mo family was included. When I broke through to Overgod, I traveled a great distance with 3 cubes of high-grade divine crystals. I only used them after exchanging them for mid-grade divine crystals in the royal capital. Look at you now. You've directly given your wife high-grade divine crystals to cultivate. A deep voice rang out. Shenjian, who was dressed in plain clothes, walked over and spoke with a smile that was not a smile.